Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I saw some comments on there saying that the song was kind of a banger. Thank you. I boogie backstage all the time when it's going. Welcome in to the live stream with Danks and Ana Escobar. Please make sure you subscribe to all of us. If you have multiple devices, you could stream all of us. Like the video, please. That helps us out. We need your support more than ever. So I'm glad you could join us. This is an unusual time for me, but our special guest, Andy Loue, is with us, and he's over in Europe. So he's a bit on a different time frame than we are. He's about 7 minutes ahead. So I'm glad we could all make it here today. So we're discussing what was in the skies over UVU September 10th, 2025. So I found this Substack by Andy because Mitch Snow actually sent it to me and was talking to me about it and letting me know that the investigation is taking a little bit of a turn, not a turn, but opening up more, and that this is an important topic to speak about. I agree 100%. So if you don't know what happened on September 10th, I would be surprised, because you're all here to learn more about it because you've been following the case for almost a year. But what we know now, because of tracking some of the plane activity that Candace has talked about, Barron's covered it some, John Cullen now has covered it, Jimmy Dore now have covered the planes and the drones that were flying overhead. But September 7th, 8th, and 9th, just days before September 10th, an important flight called SAM 702, and we'll try to keep it even more simple because my mind, when they start rattling off names of planes, numbers of planes, I just kind of blank out and lose it. But so there were flights that were tracked doing special maneuvers in Fort Carson in Colorado, the Fort place that Mitch Snow has talked to us about, Fort Bliss. The same maneuvers that they practiced on those days look like they were performed over UVU on September 10th, 2025, which indicates the possibility of military involvement with the planes, possibility of military involvement with what happened to Charlie Kirk. Now, there was somebody who reported it. I think it was Blake Bednarz, one of the first people who reported on the planes back, just after September. There was some discrepancies on his reporting. Andy Loue picked up the information. He posted about it on X, and then he, got spooked and went away for a bit. John Cullen spoke to Joe Kent about that, and John Cullen thought it was a good idea to dip out for a little bit, at least until Joe Kent resigned, and then felt more comfortable coming and talking about it after that point. Andy too felt like it was safer, and we had some safety in numbers at a point to where now he could come out. But he also noticed that Candace Owens, after she reported about the planes, she left for about 2 weeks as well. And then really there hasn't been a lot of coverage about the planes or the drones. So Ana Escobar is here. Danks is here. Andy is here. Ana is one of the first creators to ever make contact with Andy and talk about things. So I'm going to go ahead and bring everyone up here now so that we can say hello. Hi.
Hello, everybody. I agree. Your intro song is great, Teresa.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, thanks. So why don't we start with Ana? Say hello to Ana. Everybody in the chat, say hello. And we'll take your super chats at the end, so please do put your questions in. And why don't you start with talking about how you were introduced to Andy and, what happened after that?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me on. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? I'm so happy to see you guys here. And I'm super excited to be hanging with these guys. If anyone is new to any of us, and I'm sure a lot of our audiences Guys are in exactly the right spot because these people are really, really knowledgeable and curious about aviation, about the strange stuff that was happening at UVU on 9/10, and about things that were happening in the days before and the days after. And so we definitely wanted to just get everybody into a room and start to talk about it. Andy and I met. I want to say that it was because we were both like very much original Baron Coleman fans, and so we would see each other's names go by. We would see each other's super chats go by. And eventually we just got in touch because we both were really interested in the aviation portion of what had happened that day. So once that happened, we started, discussing some of these anomalies. And from there, the rest is history. Andy is so knowledgeable. That's why I'm super excited to get him on stream finally, hang face to face. And from there, it's really been something that I've been pursuing on, anybody who's here from my channel. We've been pursuing it pretty much continually, and definitely with the help of people like Andy, like Danks, and a lot of other folks that are just really interested in some of those elements.
Yeah, great to see
You're
you.
on mute. You're on mute.
So you reached out, thank you. You reached out to Andy?
I feel like, Andy, I don't remember if it was you who messaged me about it or me who messaged you, but, we knew each other's names from Baron's chat. We both have been in there for a really long time, and we're like, hey, yeah, you're talking about the planes. Me too. Baron definitely covered a lot of that stuff, especially in his initial parts of the investigation. And so it's a team effort. We know that much.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, great. Yeah. No, but I remember when it was back in April when I did my extended findings upon Cullen's initial reporting. And I thought that this has to come out. I mean, everyone must hear this. And I was sending tips to Baron, to Candace, to Presetting, reached out to a lot of influencers, maybe even some of you here. But Anna was already onto the flights. So you think I was the first one to really catch on. But just as we started to talk, we were chatting with each other and shared findings. Then that was when I got hacked. And I don't know if Anna told you because I couldn't hear her in the beginning, but I was really spooked, and I must have acted very rational. So I just said, Anna, this is too dangerous. I'm shutting down. And then I went into hiding for a while. So that was our last contact. And now we're here again. So
yeah,
very happy.
What happened that was so dangerous? Why'd you feel that way?
No, but I could, about the same time that I got in contact with Anna, I got some initial traction on X with my findings, the same findings that I later reported on Substack. My X account was suspended in a very funny way. My phone, which I could determine later by forensics, was hacked with Pegasus or state actor level virus. My microphone was on around the clock. Even if I turned off the phone, it was listening on what I did. I could see my actual address, my children's schools, my car, my friends. Everyone was being Googled from Washington, D.C. I could actually also see, difficult to prove, but 3 occasions of physical surveillance. It was really, it sounds crazy, but it was real. So that's when I just threw away all of my devices and started anew.
It does sound crazy, doesn't it? Because I mean, as far as we know, we just watch these things on movies, like with Tom Cruise in it, right?
Yeah,
And you,
yeah,
and
no,
then
but yeah, but maybe in my case, yeah, of course, I've seen too many movies, maybe. But given you had in your mind that John is gone, and for all I knew, he could have been really gone. And the AES explosion is scary, and then I come here and challenge the same type of topics that John had started talking about. So I thought better safe than sorry. And if I were bad guys that didn't want to be exposed, then please don't have me talking about it. So, but as my X was suspended and also my cloud subscription was shut down, there wasn't really any way by which I could or wanted to really investigate. But I agree, it sounds and was crazy.
So what's been happening here exactly? Can you tell us where you popped up, and what was your contribution? Because I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, you like either re-sparked this Hades conversation, the Hades plane, or you initiated it. I can't remember. Or Candace did, or it came from somewhere. Can you tell me a little bit about you and how you ended up in this at all?
No, exactly. Yeah, of course, and that's a very good question. No, but I follow this case, of course, as everyone has from the beginning. And in mid-September, if it was Blake, I think, first talked about these planes. John brought them to a bigger stage, and I immediately thought we have to look into this. I mean, this literally is on the crime scene. And Candace mentioned it shortly before her vacation. And I was thinking, great, now we will investigate this part of it, because some sort of involvement is obvious. But then Candace came back and more or less didn't touch that subject. John disappeared. So I waited for someone to do something about it. So I started investigating it myself. And what was known at that time was that the plane had descended down to 200 feet, both before and after the event at UVU. But what I found to corroborate it was a few other things. For example, I looked at the flight altitude, how it literally, when Charlie addressed the crowd, it descended from 37 to 30,000 feet. Small thing, but still, it's lockstep. When he was shot, or whatever it was, at that exact time, the plane descended from 30,000 feet to 200 feet. I also looked into what did the plane do before, and I found that it was seemingly, or very convincingly, to me, doing rehearsals at the same time as there were meetings with the SAM flights in Fort Carson and Fort Huachuca. So I added some things to it. And finally, I found the St. George flight during the surrender of Tyler Robinson. And so that's, given all those coincidences, I thought I had at least something to...
Sorry to interrupt. I wanted to ask you, is this, I'm just going to share this real quick. Is this exactly what you're talking about, this flight pattern here?
Yeah, is this the St. George or?
This is
Provo.
This is, it looks like, is that the same one or is that a different one? This is Barron's, where he covered military spy jet tracked Robinson's after Robinson's arrest. So
that's St. George.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Provo. That's
Provo. Oh, that's Provo?
This is the Provo flight, and this is going to be the flight that took place. I believe that flight is the one that took place right at the time, about 20 minutes after the actual shot. So that's the really crazy thing about the ways that this aircraft has kind of conducted itself. You know, a few hours before Charlie was taken, that plane, which is a spy plane, that's really its function, that plane had flown past UVU and had done a loop. It does two of the pretty much exact same kind of loops. They're really, really close to how they conducted themselves. So whether that's the first leg, is that say leg 2? That might be the second leg. But it flew past a couple hours before, and then it flew past again 20 minutes after the big boom. And so that kind of got past the point of coincidence, especially given the fact that it had been there present during the actual meeting of whatever kind it was the day before at Fort Huachuca. That was kind of the thing that I think for Andy and myself felt like it was really relevant to the situation. So that's the Provo flight that you guys are seeing there. So think of it this way. The day before the big boom, everybody maybe met up at Fort Huachuca, and that plane came and met up with the people that were there at Fort Bliss. Then on the actual day, it flew by beforehand, and then it flew by 20 minutes after. And for us, that started to sound a little bit less like a coincidence. It was on the following day, at the exact minute when Tyler Robinson was turning himself in, that plane, or its sister plane rather, did the exact same maneuver over the police station within, I think, what was it, 1,000? It was 1,000 feet, Andy. I can't totally recall. There was 1,000 feet.
Something like that, yeah.
At the exact moment that Tyler Robinson was turning himself in. So for us, it really just got past the point of coincidence once we were seeing the day before, the day of, and the day after for it to be at all of these relevant locations, given that its capability is, it is a spy jet. There's different configurations. We can get into all of the details. Hades, that's the name of the program. So as you guys know, when our military, our Department of Defense is creating different programs, they are looking to accomplish something for our military. This one is the high accuracy detection and is it evasion or efficiency? I can't ever recall system.
I think it's evasion, but I could be wrong.
Evasion. I think it is evasion. Basically, what that means is that's a nice little acronym so that everybody who's involved with a project like that can just have a name for it. They tend to do that. There's Ares, there's Athena, there's all these different versions of a very similar program. But what they are is they're spy planes. That's really the simplest way to put it. And they can do all kinds of different tasks depending on what their mission set and their configuration is. This is really the cream of the crop for our military spycraft. Yeah.
Okay. So let me pause. So Hades means high accuracy detection and exploitation system.
Thank you. Appreciate
yes.
that. Yeah.
Okay. So now we're talking 3 different spy planes. Is that correct?
There's a total of 3 of them. So they're all labeled Axel. That's the easiest way I think for people to keep them straight. There's Axel 10, which is 1098 Lima. There's Axel 21, which is 2100 Lima. And then there is Axel 90, which is the trainer version of the same jet. That is N9 PS, I think, yeah. So long story short, there's 3 Axel jets, and they all do the same thing.
And Axel means, what's Axel?
That's just what their call sign is. They just try to make it something easy to go out over the radio, but that would be like when you're hearing the actual pilots talking to towers and air traffic control, then they just get on and say, this is Axel 21, just the same way that American Airlines will use.
Okay.
Too, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about spy plane 1, 2, and 3. So spy plane 1.
There's a third. There's a fourth that's been ordered now, and that's in progress right now. Yeah.
Okay.
And so spy plane 1 that you found, Andy, on September 7th.
Yeah, to repeat and back a little bit back to Dank's question, it has been spoken about. I wouldn't say widely, but it has been mentioned that these flights on September 10th next to UVU, that they've happened. So really what is new, just to clarify, is these things that Anna is speaking about now, the activities the days before and also the activities the day after. So that was really what I wrote about and Anna's talking and writing about. So sorry, Teresa, you had a question that I...
Yeah. So the first one, because there are 3 different dates, 7th, 8th, and 9th, where you saw maneuvers that were happening that then were duplicated on the same day that Charlie Kirk was taken out. So September 7th, that's the first date you noticed. Is that accurate?
Yes, almost. September 7th, the so-called SAM flight with VIP passengers landed in Fort Carson in Colorado. But on the morning of September 8th, when it was at that location, we can observe the same maneuvers that was done by UVU being done, not at Fort Carson, but timing it such that it would be in the hour before the SAM flight leaves Fort Carson to go onwards. So, to put it in an easier way, some sort of meetings must have been taking place at Fort Carson, and the plane, the SAM flight with the VIPs, left Fort Carson at 11 a.m. in the morning to fly to Fort Huachuca. But you can, if you look at the spy plane number 1, It is in a holding pattern. It does circling maneuvers, just circling for like half an hour between 9:30 and 10 a.m. in the morning. And then as the clock turns to 10, it does this maneuver when it goes very, very, very low and slow, and then goes steep up again. Same as outside of Provo. And could be a coincidence, of course. But then when we look again on September 9th, then this SAM, the VIP flight, has transported itself and its passengers down to Fort Huachuca. And we have the testimony from Mitch Snow, as we all know, where he tells the story where he is seeing a lot of high-ranking officers leaving a facility, entering to cars and going somewhere around 8 in the morning. And the plane, the SAM flight that is at that point in time at Fort Huachuca, doesn't leave there until 11:45, I think, in the morning. So again, something must have been going on there. And could be another coincidence, but again, this aircraft does the same maneuver around 9 a.m., if I remember correctly, in the morning. Seems to be a rehearsal or a demonstration. Could be coincidence. But after that, now we're still on the 9th of September. The SAM flight leaves and goes to Fort Bliss, which is the home base of these spy aircraft. And it stays there for, together with spy plane number 2 and spy plane number 3, at least on the same tarmac. I don't know if they meet physically, but they are on the same tarmac for about 1.5 hours, if I remember correctly. And then comes spy plane number 1, the one outside of UVU, comes also to seemingly intercept with the SAM flight at Fort Bliss, where they spend a total of 2 more hours. And then the SAM flight flies back to Andrews, Washington. And that is the final event in the series of observations before the actual assassination, the day after.
Yeah.
Is it a good
So
summary,
what?
Anna? Or
Yeah. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, exactly. So just to like keep it really simple, though that SAM flight, that is VIP transport. And so I just want to make sure that we're, considering the fact that a lot of folks probably are just new to this information, and it is complex. So the SAM flight, that's a VIP transportation flight that flew someone who's really important. SAM means special air mission. That means that it's a special VIP passenger aboard, especially with the 700 series call sign, so SAM 702. You can think of it like this. The higher the number, as a very general statement, the higher the number, the more important the passenger. So you would think that like the president or vice president, they fly under usually 800, 900. So a SAM 700, that means that someone very important was aboard. That plane went to Fort Carson, exactly like Andy said, and then it went on to Fort Huachuca. We do not know what took place there. We can only hypothesize, but we know what Mitch Snow reported that he saw. From there, that VIP, that's the limo that's flying everybody around, right? So that VIP limo, it went on to another base, which is called Fort Bliss. That is where the spy planes all come out of, and that's where they stay. So the special VIP limo gets there, and then the spy planes are there, and they hang out with them on the tarmac for a couple hours, about an hour and a half. For all 3 of them, I believe. All 3 of them were there that day, and then they share a tarmac with them for a few hours. And then everybody goes on their way. But oddly enough, given the circumstances, when that spy plane shows up at UVU 2 hours before and 20 minutes after, it starts to speak to a little bit of a pattern that has to be explored more. I hope that made sense.
Yeah. And so the pattern is that it came down 200 yards above UVU and at a slow speed to a point that it could, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you're exactly right. The ways that plane conducted itself, it was flying like a paraglider over the water. I mean, going so low, it could have actually been on a glide path. It shouldn't be flying the way that it was because it never landed. It just did a touch and go, which means that it got to the runway and then it kept flying. The fact that this is a business jet makes that really unusual. You think of the maneuvers that it was doing as something you would see with like a Blue Angel. You would think of it as being something that like a fighter jet can handle a lot of those moves. A business jet, that's really, really unusual. So they go on and they go so low and so slow that a lot of folks have hypothesized that potentially what they could have been doing was actually deploying and picking up drones. That is a function that the military specifically has really wanted to make a part of their launch defects program. You know, they already do that from helicopters. They've been doing it for a while. So they basically, you know, fly to a certain altitude, send off a drone, and then later on they'll come and pick it up. Now, that is the same flight pattern that we did see on 9/10 on the actual day. However, something to consider is that whether they actually launched the drones or simply could have just connected to a drone. Either one of those is absolutely within its wheelhouse. That jet, even if it didn't have any attachments, even if it didn't have any drones, that jet in and of itself is really, really mission capable for a ton of data gathering. It can go and it can listen in on everybody, everything, and it can grab a ton of information. Kind of like, when you've heard about like an FBI stakeout, right? Where the FBI agents, they're all in that little red truck and they have their headphones on and they're like, trying to listen in on the bad guys. That is what that plane is for. And the reason that they use this business jet is because it's a lot sneakier to be, doing this stakeout if you're in a business jet that's not going to get a bunch of attention like it would if there was this giant, radome and all that stuff. That's all technology that we've had for years, and it's been in place with other similar programs like Athena and Ares. It's stuff that we've been doing for a while. However, what they've been working on for the past maybe 18 months or so, they've been really, really working on this drone launch capability. So those flights, if they're not actually launching drones and picking them back up, that is what they're practicing for, is what I would say. They're at least practicing so that they know that they are capable of doing it. So where they were at in their program development in September of last year, well, we can only speculate realistically, but we know that they had the capability to do all of those things. And so that's why the actual patterns that they're flying become really relevant.
And so that's why the dress rehearsals, or the rehearsals that were performed the days within the days leading up to September 10th are super important, because they're the same maneuvers. And 200 yards, that's what, 2 football fields. How did
200 feet. 200 feet, yeah.
Oh, okay, 200 feet. Okay, so
when you account for elevation, because the elevation is so high in Utah, particularly comparatively to like San Diego, you know what I mean? So originally somebody, I think they said it was 600 feet or 600 meters or something like that. Yeah. But then once you equate the altitude, it is 200 feet.
Yeah. Can you not hear a plane? Would they not notice a low flying plane and the sound?
Well, actually, I believe it was John Cullen who did discover the actual, the recording of the pilot who was flying this actual mission. And it was really fascinating. He put it out, and this was before he actually went into hiatus for a while there. But the pilot sounded very comfortable. They sounded American. They just were like, hey, we're going to call this a touch and go. All right. And the air traffic controller was like, okay, a little confused, understandably. And the pilot just went on their way. So unfortunately, a lot of times what we see with kind of like testing phase and evaluation of military capabilities, a lot of times, unfortunately, they kind of treat civilians like a little bit of an afterthought. So yes, they would have seen them. Yes, they would have, needed to contact air traffic control and just tell them, hey, this is what we're doing. But because they're flying, this is a part of national security testing and evaluation, they don't, I'm sure that people are aware that they only follow the rules that they really, really have to. So they didn't really read anybody in, I think, on the ground. Generally speaking, that's pretty standard.
Yeah, and
Right.
also sorry, to answer your question more there, why didn't anyone see this aircraft if it was so low? And if you look at the history of these 3 days that we're talking about, all these missed approaches or low flying, they are always towards an airstrip. So for an
Mm.
outside observer, it looks like a business jet coming that just aborts the landing. So they did. It's always been a target airstrip ahead of them, except for, of course, the sheriff's office in St. George. But it's always a good excuse, so to say.
Okay. Okay. And so these spy planes, they have surveillance capabilities and drone capabilities.
Yep, they do. So those ones in particular, they are able to do a lot of different things in a lot of different configurations. So like I said, the configuration that, we're talking about on September 10th, depending on if it had, its drone capability enabled, then it can launch a drone out of it. It can hypothetically collect the drone from it, and it can connect to, whatever drones are already there in place if it wants to, if it's already, got a plan to do that. It also can go and listen in. It can pick up communications, signals intelligence, communications intelligence. That's really a lot of the job. Interestingly, another capability of that jet is that it can actually inject data. So it can quite literally go and override, someone's cell phone and take over someone's cell phone, put data on their cell phone, which becomes very relevant when we think about Tyler Robinson and his text messages and his Discord messages.
Yes, that's very relevant. Let's jump into. I want to show John Cullen's video here. We're going to look at. Let me look at my note here for what we're doing on here. Okay, so we're going to do. Okay, let me go 13, 14, 15, 16, 34, 35. I think I want to do. There's two clips, so let me do this one first. Okay, guys.
I do want to mention something before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really unique things about the plane, including the intelligence, because it actually has a ceiling of what like a plane has a ceiling, a service ceiling, and if you start going higher than the service ceiling altitude, you'll stall out because of the capabilities of the engine and the aerodynamics. This plane has 51,000 threshold plus, actually. So you can actually see the curvature of the Earth, they say, from the plane itself. And you're able to actually participate in things from much further away if you need. And then if you need to get close, hence perhaps drone deployment or retrieval for information and data insertion or extraction, then they can come down low as well. So they have these what's interesting and unique is that they have these transformational increases where they do like deep sensing and ISR strategies for multi-domain operators. So like you can operate multiple devices from the plane from thousands of feet, tens of thousands of feet in the air, wherever you want within a certain, I don't know, some of the information is classified, right? But it is a very unique, like it's not just a plane. If you look at the image that is either you're on my thumbnail or the one I showed earlier, it has no windows. It might have the cockpit and maybe two up front, but that's it. And it's on purpose. So I figured I'd let you know a little bit more.
So thank you. Why would they have to be so low then? If they can if their service can reach that elevation, why would they have to fly so low? What could be possibilities for that?
Well, like I said, I think drone, and also I'm not sure how the data and all of that could be. I put forth like I said, I don't know exactly how these things work, but in my mind, if the drones is true, well, drones can't fly 51,000 feet in the air. They can't fly 20,000 feet in the air.
Okay.
They can't fly 10,000 feet. Some of them can, maybe, but you have to come low, and I don't know how that would all work. I've never even seen that, so.
Well, yeah, and the drones specifically that are part of this launched effects program, those ones are generally think closer to like a Predator drone, like a big one, right? Those ones can fly actually really high. Now they're not having munitions, don't worry about that. But they're there for ISR, which is reconnaissance. ISR, I saw the chat go by asking about that. So think of it just like reconnaissance. They are doing the stakeout. Those drones, they generally are seeking to have them launched from 38,000 feet to 41,000 feet, very, very high in the air. But as far as connectivity, they are able, that jet itself is very much able to connect to drones wherever they're launched from, at kind of any point that it wants to. So as far
And
as
those are bigger drones that look like mini airplanes, right?
Mhm.
So
well, no,
Okay.
they're not quite that big. I mean, so yes, Predator, you're right. You know what, you're right. So they have different classifications of drones. They have small drones and large drones and, kind of everything in between. These ones specifically, they are like they're a military grade drone. And so don't think of like the little quadcopters, that you would fly to do like a nice photography shoot or something. Think of it as something that is probably going to end up with a wingspan of, I think it's around 3 to 7 feet. That's because when they actually launch them out of the aircraft itself, they launch them in, and then they open up midair. So that is the goal for what they are eventually going to be able to do with this entire launched effects program. But for right now, and certainly last year around September, they were very invested in testing and evaluation. And what that means is they could have been using any kind of drone because they wanted to figure out what the best system was. That actual plane, it was flying these I called them drop and catch because that looks like what they're practicing for. They've been flying these for months, every single day, time after time after time. And so whether they had already, gotten mission capable with the launching of the drones or not, we don't know, but they certainly appear to have been practicing for that.
Yeah. So, Andy, yeah, go ahead.
Another possibility also. I mean, I think it's feasible to believe that this had to do with the drone, at least releasing them. But also another possibility is communication collecting or data collection, because we've all heard about the Egyptian planes quite a lot, and we heard about them being turned on and turned off, and the transponders are on, off, and on, off at all the times, with the plane staying still at the tarmac at Provo Airport. And it's notable that when the spy plane comes down to its lowest point, right next to the airport, then the transponder turns on for the Egyptian plane. So what it could be data collection, that the Egyptian plane is a data point that communicates with UVU and relay point really, and then comes the spy plane, collects the data, and maybe also sends data from collections from maybe drone oversight. So there may be more than one explanation.
Yeah.
And also they're using a lot of radar and maybe even LiDAR and various different types of sensor, right, to be able to detect from long distances. So perhaps they can fly and do certain things at certain altitude, but maybe they have to come down certain elevation in order to do certain activity.
They can jam signals as well. That aircraft
Jam frequencies.
Exactly. It can function as a signal jammer, even without its canoe on, even without its pods attached for drone launching. It already does have that capability, and that is often something that does that electronic warfare. It has to be done a little bit closer up. The reason that they're flying so high is because they want to be at standoff range, as in the whole purpose of these jets is that they're not going to be noticed, right? So realistically, them being high and just looking like a regular little business jet, that's what they want. That's their goal. So that is why they tend to have this capability that allows them to stay so high. And as far as why they chose to come down right then, I'm like, I wish that they would tell us more than anything, because it's a heck of a coincidence. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the drone capabilities, they have ballistic capabilities and facial recognition.
That's right.
Right.
The drones themselves. So facial recognition software is something that has been part of, drone deployment. And we've seen that we have seen that significantly increase. Something that I talk about a lot on my channel is the fact that that sort of facial recognition and multi-token system, basically, it means that it could do something like coordinate a device to go off at the same time as a gunshot. Those sort of like perfectly timed things, that's just multi-tokenization. That's something that those drones are more than capable of. So not totally sure if that's what happened, but it certainly is possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
Okay.
reading. Oh, my bad.
No, go ahead.
One last thing, and then we'll get in. I just went to Grok because I want to verify. I wanted to ask about the drones and the elevation. So it says in plain English, I was like, just give it to me in plain English. It says right now,
Please.
the Hades plane does not have any drones that they can actually use. Technically, it says the plan is that these planes will one day shoot small drones out from under their wings while the plane is flying really high, over 41,000 feet up. Those drones are called launch effects. They are meant to fly out ahead of the plane to look around, listen for signals, or do other jobs so the big plane can stay safer or farther away. So the drones are only launched, allegedly is what it's saying. They are not brought back. Once they leave the plane, they're made to be expendable. So no drones, as of right now, have been established as officially working with Hades planes. But it says the Army is testing and is trying it out, it says, sometime in 2026. So if they're publicly saying 2026, then...
Right.
It's been done 10 years ago.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I mean, at least Grok kind of knows what's going on. So yeah, exactly. That's something where...
So I was wrong. I was wrong on the drone stuff. I was mistaken because I'm thinking those drones are small that we're seeing, you know, the ones that John Cullen, even the bigger one, you know, I can't imagine that can go that high, but I guess it can.
Well, so, and again, this testing and evaluation phase, it's really, really extensive. And that's on purpose because they want to see what they can make work. As we know, we want it to be mission capable, but we also would want it to be inexpensive. That's a lot of what it has to do with. I do believe that they have actually announced a few of the drones that they have as, you know, their official preferred drones. I think that there is an article that came out maybe in April that said specifically which drones, you know, it's planning to partner with. But so when they're in testing, they kind of do, you know, they do whatever they want to make it work the best. And then from there, they are eventually going to come out, announce this is what we've decided, and then kind of go from there.
Okay.
Sorry, just one quick regarding Danks, what you were talking about, the self one-time use, the self-destruct part of it all. It would be quite difficult to retrieve the drones, not least to the plane, of course, but even to retrieve them anywhere. So the self-destruct part of it, I think there could be something there. In other words, each drone was equipped with explosives so that it could self-eliminate later.
Right, they're considered
just a speculation.
It is, yeah, right. Pure spec, but a reasonable speculation. And I, you know, the thing that I've been exploring, I agree with you, Andy, is that because they're attributable, which means that they don't have to be returned back. They do not. We consider them expendable. What that means is that they kind of don't really care what happens to them. My personal thought is that on that second meetup, what a hypothesis that I've been exploring is potentially maybe they needed to collect, turn off, wipe the drones in whatever way. And so they needed to be close enough to be able to do that. Now, I do know that they do plan to have them to be retrievable because the expense eventually, once they've chosen that drone, it's going to go up. But for right now, they're like, you know what, it's fine. We're just going to see what we can do with it. And realistically, that means that, I mean, my thought was, I didn't know about, you know, explosives. My thought was that, I mean, there's a mountain range right there. There's a lake right there. And they could absolutely just wipe it and then kind of get rid of it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's look at this clip. You guys, I have the all the links to the videos for John Cullen and Jimmy Dore, as well as all the socials for us and the Substack for Andy. But this first one is going to explain why Fort Huachuca is significant in all of this. And if you remember, Andy was talking about that when he tracked one of the planes, or the spy planes, it coincides with what Mitch says he saw the day that he was there. So this is, I really like this for you guys to really know the significance of that base. Okay, so let me go with. Okay. Here we go.
Today's complex operational environment requires a culture of innovation and modernization. Prized for its unique geography and climate, Fort Huachuca is a vital national asset supporting joint and interagency teams with critical aviation, intelligence, signal, and cyber enablers. Located in close proximity to joint strike capabilities, the fort is strategically positioned to support complex mission command operations and exercises. Closely replicating the topography of current theater of operations, Fort Huachuca offers more than 65,000 acres dedicated to training, including access to major urban centers, national forests, elevations from 4,000 to 9,500 feet above sea level, and an established non-assisted recovery network, mock villages, high-angle sniper and laser ranges, and the nation's only high-altitude dirt airstrip and drop zones. Fort Huachuca has built strong partnerships with local, state, and federal agencies to host complex, low-signature, low-profile, non-traditional operational training. With future expansion of unmanned air corridors to the Barium Goldwater bombing range, Fort Huachuca represents the best intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance targeting opportunity in the world. Joint commanders are able to leverage our partnerships with and proximity to Luke and Davis-Monthan Air Force bases, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, the city of Tucson, and White Sands Missile Range. Using the nation's leading manned and unmanned certified air traffic control team and operating outside national commercial airspace, units can culminate complex exercises with joint strike operations over 964 square miles of restricted airspace for more than 350 flying days each year. The fort's 12,000-foot runway provides operational reach into Asia, the Pacific, and South America. We are the sole Department of Defense provider of advanced experiential-based joint human intelligence training, debriefing, and military source operations. Tenet organizations are leading technology development and integration across the force. As the only location in the United States to conduct aggressive, offensive electronic warfare and jamming, Fort Huachuca capitalizes on its 2,500 square mile electronic range and high elevation mountain bowl to support signal intelligence collection, tactical electronic warfare training, rapid prototyping, and overseas deployment of the newest technology. As a supporting test center for the Army cyber initiatives, we ensure the Army is ready for a cyber future and play a key role in the strategic shift to converged information technology services. We are uniquely positioned to support complex mission profiles for the Joint Interagency Team in support of the national security and defense strategies with an expeditionary mindset focused on preparing for operations in every corner of the globe.
What's unique about Fort Huachuca is that it's the home of Army's intelligence, right? So they basically operate they host the Army Intelligence Center of, I think it's called Center of Excellence. And they actually train the military intelligence soldiers who analyze and exploit data collected by these ISR platforms, which is intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. So it has a very unique part in the military.
Touchdown.
So that's something to be said, specifically because of its signal intelligence location requirements that they're doing there on base. It's like the home of that, right? So that's why this is such a big deal. That's why Fort Huachuca is such a big deal, is because not only that, that's where Lori Francevy has been, I believe verified that she's worked at a Fort Huachuca doing EMP work. So
Yeah. Some Fort in Tucson, right?
Some Fort in Tucson. So, Andy, in your research, did you find out anything of, what does Fort Carson do? What does Fort Bliss do? Or is it this, do they do the same things as Fort Huachuca?
Well,
Yeah, I touched a little bit on it, but to be honest, I only relied on AI responses on those questions, and I want to take them with a grain of salt. From the top of my mind, I really remember that I might be wrong here, but one of the places where they did intervene or meet, I think it was Fort Carson, had a heavy influence on, or were heavy on not PR, but narrative control. There is a fancy military term for it, but
Okay.
it at least at the looks of it, it seems like one of the places that they visited was one where they would foresee how would the public react, how could we adapt to it. I'm speculating again, but it seems like there were these different forts were chosen for some reason. Fort Bliss, obviously, because of the aircraft, and Fort Huachuca for what you're talking about now, and Fort Carson, I think, was the narrative.
Well, Fort Hood also is the home to the intelligence brigade for aerial intelligence. So that's something unique. So the Fort Hood specifically is the Army's only fixed wing aerial ISR unit that I know of. I believe I'm correct.
I think they're planning to move the Hades program to Fort Hood, if I'm not mistaken. That might be something that has just come out.
Yeah, they just built, I believe they built recently new hangars that can support that, the size of these planes and the protection of intelligence of these planes. And it's mostly because of the hangars and then the airfield space. Yeah, I think that's about it. There's other things too, but that's the primary.
Okay.
Yeah, the fort in Colorado Springs, I believe at the time they still had Space Force there, if I'm not mistaken. Then they eventually did go on to move that to Alabama, right? But at the time, it might have still been. Peterson Space Force base is right there too. So a lot of the specialization of the bases will have to do with kind of what step in the process they're in right now. Now we know that this administration has actually made a lot of changes to where things work, like moving the Space Force headquarters down to Alabama. But Fort Huachuca is really, really important to military intelligence, and so it is, kept kind of hush hush, but that's on purpose. That's intentional. But that's what it's there. That's what it's used for. They did seem to stop a little bit more frequently. Our Hades jets. They do occasionally go to different parts of Texas, but primarily they at that time were currently staged out of Fort Bliss, and that's why they went to them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I can, to consult my own article here again. This isn't data I verified manually. Whilst the flight data is verified by myself, but Fort Carson is special forces mostly. But they did make another stopover between Fort Carson and Fort Huachuca, a short stopover in Davis, Montana, and that is electronic combat. So that was the fort I was referring to.
Yeah.
And also Fort Hood. So like if I were to try to put these together, I would say Fort Hood is the main operational home currently, where the military intelligence for planes, flying planes and fixed wing aircraft. Then you have, so that's like the main intel for the planes and the aircraft. But then you have Fort Huachuca, and Fort Hood's in Texas. Fort Huachuca is in Arizona, not far away. They do training and intelligence. It's like a schoolhouse. You can think of it as a schoolhouse and training facility. That's why it says home of Army intelligence. The Army, they're training and they're doing all of their soldier and analysis work and processing data that the planes collect, right? So planes retrieve and operate out of Fort Hood. Data gets distributed to Fort Huachuca, and then Fort Bliss previously had some aerial intelligence units as well. So I think there's like a little battle between Fort Bliss and Fort Hood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Well, and also the geography itself is really important when they are doing testing and evaluation. So I think that they did talk about it briefly in that video about Fort Huachuca. So it's, flat. The weather is usually good for flying. And also then they have this mountain bowl, which means that they are better able to evaluate how well the aircraft does its job. If you can imagine having, like flying over the mountains, it's going to result in a lot of challenges with collecting data. If you were flying around or over the ocean where there's, depth and everything like that. So for that reason, they kind of have a preference for a few different places for where they would want to go to work on a few different things. And so, whatever the reason was that Fort Huachuca was chosen for that meeting, we can kind of only speculate. I did think it was worth mentioning as well that the fact that the contract for accurate energetic systems, the fact that it went to NSWC Crane, which is located up in Indiana, that doesn't feel accidental to me anyway, either. Given that Crane is actually where they do the modifications like microelectronics, that is where they work on drone swarm technology. It's really, really cutting edge stuff. And that happens to be where that extra small shape charge was delivered to. That's where the contract was for. So again, I agree. It doesn't feel accidental to me either.
Okay. So I'm going to play this other clip. It's a longer clip from John's program, Hypothetically Speaking. You guys, it's in the links in the description. Watch the full one. He's got 3 videos. They're all really great. I absolutely recommend watching them. But here's why this is important, and here's why we're talking about this. Because there is the Posse Comitatus Act, which means it prohibits the U.S. military from making strikes against U.S. citizens, from using military force against U.S. citizens, unless it is approved by Congress or our Constitution. The reason these things are important is because these maneuvers and these projects and these, I don't know what else do you call it besides a project, there are things that are happening in our skies, possibly on our land to our people. And the fact that, the possibility, if Charlie Kirk was targeted by our military, our government, or anything like that on U.S. soil, it's against the law. It's against the law, and these things that they are doing, surveillance, all of these practice, dress rehearsal, if it's not on a base, if it's done in our cities, in our towns, in our neighborhoods, over our schools, it's illegal. And they're doing something that can only be an act of Congress or our Constitution. Is that right? Is that how you guys understand it too?
I get the feeling that's why they refer to them as training flights. Is that if they say that this is all just training, this is all just normal training stuff, then that allows for them to conduct these operations without it being considered, an act against the American people. But
yeah,
I mean, at what point, there's been a lot of room for interpretation, especially in this administration, and a real lack of congressional oversight. So it's been a concern. And I think that the drone, they seem to be taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah. Operation was the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yes, these operations. So that's why it's important, and that's why we're talking about this. And I think, this is why people have John Cullen, Andy, other people have gotten a little bit spooked when they feel like they're being surveilled and when their equipment is being hacked into, because if these operations are going on like this, it is a risk to be out here and talking about this. Andy being here, John Cullen, Danks, Ana, me, that the fact that we're all talking about this could be potentially dangerous. So, it's important to pay attention, and we all believe strongly that we are doing this for the greater good. We're doing it for you and for us, because if something like this did happen to our brother, and I mean brother Charlie Kirk, our brother, national brother, it could happen to any one of us. And when this begins to happen to one of us, it will eventually make it to our doorstep. So it's important that we understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's time to open our eyes, you guys. It's time. Like, we are finally getting there. And I just think that it's so crazy how Charlie Kirk seems to be the straw that broke the camel's back, even though we've had Iran and the files, but it's like when you put it all together that quickly, one of them is going to bust. And I think that we finally did hit that threshold, and that is nice to see, because how long have I been conspiracy theorist, or I'm crazy, or people don't even want to associate with, now I'm having conversations with my mom and dad like about this stuff, and they're looking into this. So that's important. And like Teresa says, this is to raise awareness, because unaware, or like for the movie Eyes Wide Shut, is how they expect us to live. And that's because we have forever. So let's not do that anymore. Let's eyes wide open,
Yes, wide open.
Yeah, and also on that point, I think since this topic has been so relatively little talked about, if you compare to all the other things that the whole globe seems to investigate, everything from Erica to other quite minute events, this hasn't been investigated. Rather, it's like it seems as it has been investigated, but really it hasn't. And so what you're doing here, what all of you are doing, is really creating awareness. And as you know, I'm not American, but this affects us too over here. So it is important.
Is it very common over there? Sorry to interrupt. I'm curious. Where are you? You're in somewhere, you don't have to tell, but in your area, is this as prolific of a conversation as it is here?
But the general conversation is as prolific, yeah. But again, within those that are keen to understand a little bit more. Otherwise, it's about the same. It's there are countries full of boomers, like you have in America, and what you see on the headlines are the truth. But it's more and more open. Not maybe so much about the Charlie Kirk event itself. But
you probably have your own situations going on over there, right? Some other things
definitely.
That we don't see.
Yeah, which are like similar in a way. But this is, I agree with what you said, Danks, that this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Is that what you say? At least I hope.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep, that's correct.
Well, you doing this, Andy, makes you more of a patriot than some of our own patriots, MAGA patriots. And, and I like what you said, because, we are investigating TPUSA, Erica Kirk, and all of that. But as I was getting ready and, preparing for today, I'm like, has that been such an easy target, though? Hasn't that been a really easy target to overlook what may be happening deeper?
Yeah.
Because that's just what we see, right? And so let's get to this clip. So it's about 10 minutes. So just to let you guys know that. Let me get, where are we here? And it's really important. So here we go.
We took a quick break, and I'm kind of thinking through this, and I want to kind of share with you guys kind of how I think through these things, because there's something that I use pretty often as like a
So I like this because he's not telling us what to think, although he does share his thoughts and opinions with us. He's really here, like in all of these, the creators and when you see people reporting, what's really important to do or commentating is to not necessarily think what they think, but pay attention to what they're teaching you about how to think about things, how to look at things, and how to think critically about it. So that's why I like this. And again, he has some important stuff to say.
tool or a mechanism, which is the double bind. And I try and put things into scenarios where it's either A or B. Okay. And an example here would be, in the case of this Charlie Kirk killing, we know from the ADSB data that the Hades aircraft was adjacent to the scene twice. All right, so that's like indisputable. It's on ADSB Exchange. You guys can go get it right now. You don't have to spend any money. It's free. ADSBExchange.com. It's free. And the data's there. So we know, like, that's a fact. That's an indisputable fact. The sort of the double bind scenario is, this is a pretty high-end asset from the Pentagon, allegedly, ostensibly, right? I mean, it might actually belong to the CIA, but it says U.S. Army on the side. But allegedly, ostensibly, it belongs to the Pentagon. It's a very high-end program, this Hades Ares program. And at the end of the day, either the president knew this was happening or he did not. It's either A or B. Either the president of the United States has no idea that the Hades thing was going to be there twice that day, or he did. It's one or the other. And so in the scenario where the president's got no idea this is happening, we have to ask ourselves, well, then who are the people that have access to these assets? And there's an underlying assumption here that it's involved, right? So the underlying assumption here is that the Hades aircraft has some involvement in what happened that day. And if that's the case, and the president didn't know, well, then who the hell who's got access to this thing has a motive to want to kill Charlie Kirk in such a complex manner and not tell the president and risk getting caught and killed, whatever, death penalty types, absconding with Hades to kill Kirk and not tell the president, not tell Hegseth? That's kind of where one path leads, if the president didn't know. And then the other question is, well, if the president did know, that takes us down a different decision tree, a different logic tree. And one side of that logic tree is, was Charlie Kirk a bad guy and we didn't know about it? Was Charlie Kirk an agent working for Syria? Was Charlie Kirk an agent working for Turkey? Did his team and Erica say, Mr. President, I got to talk to you privately. Why does my husband speak Syrian?
He doesn't speak Syrian, by the way. He's just, hypothesizing.
I love John so much. He's so wonderful. I would hope that we can also consider, a few additional options. I do understand that, that is very reasonable, that we do have to start to consider, what would the reason be? Did the president know? Did the president not? But I do think it's worthwhile to keep in mind that there are other possibilities out there. The only thing that any of us knows for 100% sure is that Tyler Robinson did not plan and execute Charlie Kirk by himself from the top of the Pelosi Center with a 30-06 with his granddaddy's rifle, right? Like, that's the one thing that we know didn't happen. But something that Andy...
Keyword by himself. Right.
By himself,
yes.
Exactly. Right.
That's very important, because it could be, we might end up being proved that Tyler Robinson was involved, right?
Well, the term conspiracy theory was coined by the CIA back in, 1967 to try to keep people from looking too much into the JFK assassination. So realistically, we do know that, unfortunately, it's something that's done. However, there are additional possibilities to what the purpose of these jets might be. For myself, my own personal working theory is that the amount of data collection, as well as the amount of options that you would have for reconnaissance, especially with things like drones, but signal jamming, data recovery, etc. Those are, I hope that people think of the fact that those kinds of information, they're really, really worth a lot to a lot of things like military contractors. They would love nothing more than to be able to capture how US citizens might react to an assassination on US soil. How many people left the scene? How many people remained at the scene? How many people dialed 911? How many people called a loved one? How many people actually drove away in their car versus ran? Those are all pieces of information that jet is able to gather, even without any special additional attachments, as well as things like, can we actually jam everyone's signal here? Can we actually make it so that so few videos are able to be recorded, etc.? So those pieces of information, especially on American citizens, they are worth so much to these defense contractors that, I mean, for myself anyway, my current working theory is that there was an element of greed associated with this, with intel gathering, and that it may not mean that I do not see any evidence personally that Charlie was an agent of Syria, Turkey, or other, but it could be that some of these companies really, really want that information. And so therefore, they might decide to coordinate and come to the table, and that could be a reason enough for them to do it.
Yeah. And I don't know that John literally thinks that, but that's one. And he's saying with this, like this is like your extreme point over here. But we have to keep our minds open. But, and the fact that, I was saying on one of my other streams, Erica should be pushing, we're pushing her. She should be pushing the administration to do something more, but maybe we also need to be pushing the administration more. Maybe we need to be a louder voice for that too. In addition to TPUSA, Erica Kirk, and all of that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to the clip.
I don't know. I have no idea. But if the president, right, if the president knew this was happening, and you've got a whole bunch of Sam type people at Fort Huachuca in some sort of meeting the day before, and Andy's going to talk to us a little bit about some of these other flights, and his paper talks about, guys, this is not coincidental. This is, this is batting practice before the game. And so if that's the case, is there information, is there intelligence that indicates potentially that Charlie Kirk is not who we thought he was, and that information made its way to the president, made its way to XF, and like, holy S, this guy made his way into the Oval, and his real name is, Kukik Madachikik, from, I don't know. I don't know. Because the other side of that is, so let's say Kirk's not a bad guy. Let's say, no, he's not a Syrian spy. He's not a Turkish spy. That's absurd. And the reason I'm saying Syria and Turkey is, who would advocate against a war in Iran and say, Israel's becoming a pain in the ass? Would be Turkey, would be Syria, right? Would be countries that are kind of, would not want to see this war with Iran. So hypothetically, was Charlie a bad guy? And Erica found out, and the rest of the, this guy with the ponytail found out, and they're like, holy shit. And they tell the president, and the president's like, Erica, I don't know what to tell you, but your husband's been taking payments from, Ashraf Assad. They're like, what? Again, that would explain the action. That would explain deploying Hades and taking the guy out. You tell me this guy's a Syrian double agent that made his way into the Oval Office. He's advocating against going to war for Iran, and he's actually a Syrian? Turk, whatever. Or not. Now that's kind of movie type stuff. but it would explain killing them and using these assets. Now, the other side of that is, no, that's absurd. Well, then what the hell would you kill Charlie Kirk for? And this is where we hear a lot of Israel, Israel, Israel. But okay, so Israel's angry at Charlie Kirk. Why would we kill Charlie Kirk because Bibi's angry at him? Why would we do that? And that's where we
So here's where he gets to a part that piques my interest a lot.
start getting into how would you motivate the president to do what it is that you'd like to see him do. And is this where we go to New Gaza and the role that Jared Kushner's playing in New Gaza? And Bibi says, listen, you take care of my problem. I'll get you the Gaza peace deal. I'll release 2,000 hostages. That's how many we released, 2,000, or he released 2,000 Palestinian hostages, or prisoners, excuse me. 2,000 Palestinian prisoners were released to get back the 7 hostages that remained. The Gaza peace deal was done 28 days after Charlie Kirk was killed. Had it been 31 days, I'd be much more comfortable. But it was 28 days later. Almost like there was an agreement. You take care of this problem, and I'll get that done for you within 30 days. And then everybody will be talking about Nobel Peace Prize. And, oh my God, it's the first time we've had peace in the Middle East in 5,000 years.
Does anybody know why he would be more comfortable with 31 days as opposed to 28 days? Why is that significant?
Well, I'm just hypothesizing here. We will ask John, but that 30-day time frame, that is a pretty, it's a pretty normal approach for them to have things done in that specific turnaround. What we do know is that the same Egyptian jets, that's SUBTT, that were there on the tarmac at UVU that day, they also showed up to the Gaza Peace Summit. So my personal belief is that John is just saying, this specific, hey, I'll have this done within 30 days. He's saying those are pretty normal contract terms. I would argue that he's really got a point, given that those Egyptian planes happened to go on to New Gaza, but it definitely concerns a lot of us that there may have been that aspect of this as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably not related, but 28 days from September 10th would be October 7th, almost October 8th. But I don't see the correlation with regards to Cadence reasoning on that. So I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's what happened. They got the deal done. And Jared is basically running New Gaza. He's like the governor of New Gaza with Tony Blair. But Jared's the one at the podium. And they're selling this thing like this is going to be the new Abu Dhabi. This is, they're going to build a Louvre. They're going to have Formula One in New Gaza. This is going to be like Monte Carlo on the Mediterranean. Man, this is hot. They're bringing in Qatar money, Dubai money. Was that the motivation? Or was the motivation Charlie Kirk's a bad man? And Erica he's on the phone in the closet speaking Syrian. Again, I don't know. I'm looking for an explanation here. What the hell would you deploy these assets to kill, what was he, 31 years old? I mean, you get some guy to stick some insulin in his ass walking through the mall. It's a whole lot easier to kill somebody than people realize.
It's a good point. I also thought a lot of that. But I think it's just to send a message, but we don't know what he knew, right? Once you start getting up to the higher levels of government, military, anything that carries protocol and clearance to even talk about, we don't know. And that's the scary thing. Now, I don't think he was some Syrian actor or Russian actor, but at the same time, he's been caught lying, to apparently his best friend, right? So we can't forget that there are people are people, and what we like, a lot of it is, I saw, like, last night I was watching this, I briefly watched about Ariana Grande, you know, but what you see isn't what you necessarily actually have, right? We don't know what's going on the other side, in their brain, in their body, whatever, right? So I've always tried to remain open to the fact that, well, Charlie was admittedly saying that if Trump didn't become president, he'd be in jail. So why, you know? It lends a little credence to maybe there could be something going on that is much more sophisticated, much more covert than any of us could even imagine. It's just a possibility.
And so, Danks, just to clarify, are you saying that was the Charlie saying that he was concerned about going to prison? When was it that he was saying that?
I think it was either the second time, I believe I think it was 2024 or the first one. I can't remember. I think it was the last time, the second Trump, the third Trump run, right, where he won. And I think the investigation was in 2022, and Jack Frost, I think his name was running the investigation into almost 100 right-wing conservative nonprofits and activists. And so it's called Arctic Frost, Project Arctic Frost.
Okay.
And Arctic Frost was basically spearheading at TPUSA in order to look at whatever alleged fraud or financial things, or I don't know, you know, along with promoting a political actor or figure, might as well be actor, on a nonprofit, a 501c3, which is illegal, right? So there's a lot of things that even in my brief time looking, and I'm not an IRS auditor or anything, but there are questions to be raised. And if someone that knew what they were doing looked in, I'm sure you could find something. And that goes for a lot of businesses, but especially nonprofits working in the political field.
Well, it was the timing of what you were mentioning is interesting. 2022, I believe that is really, from what we've heard, a lot of right around the same time that Tyler Boyer and other folks kind of started to have a real influence in the business element. And so without knowing in detail what that is in reference to him saying that, again, my real sense is that a lot of his business was kind of taken out of his hands. I don't know if you guys caught this with, there's a young man, his name is Mitch Manley. He was at Turning Point for 10 years before Charlie passed away. And he has spoken before about the fact that employees were not even allowed to talk to Charlie. And that was not by Charlie's wishes. That was by other people saying, you cannot go into Charlie's office. Don't go in there unless you have something, don't enter, don't speak with him, to the point where when people would leave, they would be like, oh my gosh, should I even text him? And he wouldn't even, know what was going on. So when Candace mentioned the fact that Charlie's life was the Truman Show, I get the feeling that she was talking about some work stuff, some home stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if, I understand the Turning Point was Charlie, but he wasn't the only one making those decisions. He just probably felt the responsibility of it since the organization was one that he had started,
I would like to say too, is that, have you noticed that as more information comes out that's significant, we get a renewed wave of the other side? I hate to say the other side, but the other side of this investigation, where they believe in the story of what the feds are telling them. But it's like when this came into existence again with Stu and you and all kinds of other things as well, what did we get? We got Andrew Wilson, and then we've got some random new small YouTubers that like left TPUSA, and now they're like all over the place. It's just very strange to me,
The playbook's definitely changed. That was my impression too. It seemed to me as though the July 4th meeting that Andrew Colvett went to, which was attended by, I believe, J.D. Vance, Miriam Adelson, and a few, and Pete Hegseth as well. My real feeling has been that meeting, because things were going so poorly before then, was an opportunity for them to introduce a new PR strategy. That's a lot of what I've been looking at. I get the feeling they got some adults in the room. It didn't escape my notice that 2 days after Stu and I started talking about these fundraising flights that all of a sudden Rob McCoy was on a podcast within 48 hours in Tennessee saying, oh, well, where have I been the past year? Oh, well, I've been into 36 states doing pastoral stuff. And oh, I've been opening Turning Point Israel. That's where I've been. That's why I've been going there. I get the feeling that they got some more serious strategists and crisis communications experts in the room. And then they started doing things like calling Candace a digital assassin and rolling out this NCRI document because the strategy prior to that was just such a mess that, I mean, it was so easy to see through, you know. This version's better, but it's still there if you take a look at it.
It's still obvious. Danks, you said Charlie Kirk, you said something about Charlie Kirk lying to his best friend. Was that the lie that he told Candace about the finances?
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, okay. So here's the questions that we're trying to determine is what happened?
Oh, your camera.
Oh no.
If you have a logo, you can turn it off and then just turn your camera off in the bottom for a second if it needs to cool down.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, let me go.
You're too hot, girl.
Here. Well, I have.
Works.
There we go. That's
Nice.
got
Prepared.
my.
I like
you guys
it.
can see my backlights, but that's okay, I guess.
That's okay. It looks great.
Oh, it looks
Yeah, it's
good.
Okay. Anyway, you can still hear me, all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the questions we're trying to answer really are, you know, who had the most to gain from what happened to Charlie, right? Mm-hmm. Was it the left trying to destabilize the right? Was it the Pentagon trying to destabilize Charlie's base to shore up support from its base like it did with Butler, allegedly? You know, was it TPUSA to reposition itself financially and to maintain itself as the propaganda arm for the administration, or foreign governments, or all of the above?
I think that all of the above is really what has resonated with me the most. In looking at all of these different motives that need to be explored, it occurs to me that it's very possible everyone had kind of their own reason to come to the table about this. There have been so many individuals that have benefited from, you know, Charlie's passing, that it occurs to me that they might be different motivations. Turning Point maybe could have been conducting some business that Charlie didn't like and that he had newly run into. That's my personal hypothesis, as well as considering the fact that there are a lot of these ties to the military-industrial complex and certainly our greatest ally. They had a lot of motivations as well. If it was just one individual who was, you know, deciding that they were going to come in and make the decision that Turning Point needed to head in a new direction and have that be without Charlie, then it occurs to me that it doesn't mean that that was the same reason why the administration might have gone for it, but that they needed maybe their own reason too.
Yeah, I will say that, okay, my audience knows, and I've spoken on this a lot. Mm-hmm. Data centers, the files, Iran, Board of Peace, Taiwan, the chips, all of the, like, I mean, everything that's going on globally, the Strait of Hormuz, and like, he would have been a massive problem for every single technocratic, globalist, new world, you know, type of direction. Charlie was a Christ is king, like, God is most important, and they don't want to hear that. These people are not that, you know? They don't care what somebody's religion is. They don't care what somebody's morals are. They do not care what we want. If they did, we would be getting it, but we aren't.
Yeah.
We're getting the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. So if anybody stands terminally in their way, well, they have to, you know, I mean, I'm not saying they did anything, but to me, it looks like he had to go. If you want to move this fast and shut everybody up as much as possible, and then possibly deploy a bunch of other people to act on Charlie's behalf as well. On top of it, it's like this major appearance of a psyop, and it favors everything, all of the above and things we don't know about. And don't forget, Andrew and Charlie Kirk were in the room when Trump said he was going to F over Miriam Adelson. Well, who was working for Miriam Adelson at some point in their life? The same person in that room standing next to Charlie. Well, what if Charlie spoke too much and Andrew possibly went and told somebody that he needed to tell that Charlie's got his mouth open? What do you want to do? Tell him to stop. He won't stop. Okay.
Right. That unfortunately is something that I've been thinking about a lot too. And I couldn't agree with you more that it is a real concern, the fact that Andrew Colvett and his former boss, his mentor, Johnny Moore, have this long-standing connection, it appears, with the Adelson family. Given the amount of money and influence that comes out of the Adelson and their Las Vegas Sands organization, I'm sure that it's really hard to walk away from that amount of money and power, as for some reason Johnny Moore and Andrew Colvett decided to do. Then right at about that same time, it's the funniest thing, Andrew Colvett is placed by Tyler Boyer into Turning Point. And from there, well, we don't really know exactly what the timeline resulted in, but a lot of these problems, I'm not saying that they followed Andrew Colvett there, but it doesn't escape me that the timing really does seem to link up, and that those relationships, they definitely have meaning and they can be a motivating factor for who they're listening to. I've often said on my pod, I say Andrew Colvett had a boss, and I don't think it was Charlie Kirk. Johnny Moore had a boss, and he is not his own boss, and it's not the president of JDA. So when we're thinking about that kind of influence and what it might convince someone to participate in, we're talking about some big time stuff, and we're quite literally talking about actual Vegas mobsters, not them, allegedly, in my opinion. But this is the kind of people that we're talking about. And then we're also talking about a military industrial complex that's been more than willing to kick off this Iran war non-war by assassinating a religious figure during Ramadan, along with his grandchild and a ton of Iranian schoolgirls. So when we think about the level of depravity that a lot of these folks have been showing a pattern of being willing to engage in, then we really do have to consider every possibility. And that although Charlie Kirk is a really important figure to many Americans, was he simply the first casualty of the war?
Yeah.
I wanted to, if you don't mind, can I share? Stu, he does a really good job on this Jake Shields podcast of really consolidating piece by piece for those that maybe don't know the whole story. Now, Stu is very direct, right? He is saying it almost matter-of-factly, but is it okay if I play a little bit of this just to kind of, I don't know if you've seen this yet. Let me go ahead and add this real quick. And then you like it like this, right? There we go.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, he's saying a lot of things. Look, I'm much more careful with my words. Stu seems to know, or he acts like he knows. And this is a very interesting and very direct way of speaking about this whole scenario.
That Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses, and its tail number is 99-0404. Mm-hmm. And you can go on any FlightAware website, flight radar tracking apps, like any of this. This is all like open source information. Anybody can go see this. And this 99-0404 plane on September 8th, the day that Mitch Snow says that he saw Erica Kirk and Cabot Phillips on Fort Huachuca, that plane goes from Joint Base Andrews out west and then ends up at Fort Huachuca.
No way. And you could track, I'm going to check this after we get off this.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, dude, just roll with me for a second here.
Okay. No, even that's like shocking that he went out there.
So, and it flew there under a call sign SAM 702, SAM 702. What SAM means is special air mission. The only people who can approve or authorize or order a special air mission flight there's two of them, the president and the vice president.
Wow.
That's it. Nobody else can approve it. Nobody else can order it. Nobody else can authorize it. So whoever is on board, if it's not the president or the vice president, because if it were, it would be Air Force One or Air Force Two. That would be the call sign designated to that aircraft. But if it's a SAM flight, the person who's on that flight is doing the business of or exchanging a message on behalf of, receiving or giving a message on behalf of either the president or the vice president. They are doing the official business of one of those two people.
Is that
So-
so? I don't know why I never thought to look this up, but Anna, is that true that the SAM flights are designated on behalf only of the White House's two top administration?
Sure. So specifically, SAM aircraft are able to be scheduled under this AMC. It's their scheduling platform. However, that specific flight and that specific aircraft are ones that did not appear within those normal databases. After, I believe it was Barron and Daisy who went ahead and FOIA'd that specific SAM 702 call sign. That one appears to have been scheduled most likely under the White House military office, the WHMO. Again, given the fact that there's only a couple options for how those flights are scheduled, it definitely, what he's saying absolutely makes sense, where that aircraft could be scheduled normally, but in these cases, it doesn't appear that it was.
And I think that comes from the fact when we were able to reduce all of this down to that, because Barron's FOIA request actually said that it came back. So Barron submitted a FOIA about this 702 to the department that he thought would be responsible for this aircraft. But then they sent him back months later saying it was from the Presidential Airlift Group, and they are declining to respond on this FOIA. So that's where he's getting this. And so if you say, well, the Presidential Airlift Group, that's only the presidents and the vice president.
This plane that is primarily almost exclusively used by Pete Hegseth on September 8th flew to Fort Huachuca under call sign SAM 702, and then it departed on the 10th.
This is the same day that people allege the other people were there.
Yes.
So yeah, I honestly haven't followed the Charlie Kirk thing that close. When that happened, there was so much going on, so I don't have all the details on Charlie Kirk.
Hold on. This is going to be the iceberg here.
Oh wow, because it's already crazy.
30 days later, 30 days after Charlie Kirk is murdered, there is a munitions production facility. You've probably heard this story called AES, which is called Accurate Energetic Systems. It's in Eastern Tennessee. There's like virtually nothing else out there. And what they do is they build explosives and they deliver to, like excavators, and they also do contracts for the government. The Department of Defense had placed a $440,000 order just ahead of Charlie Kirk's death for a micro explosive from AES. Well, 2 weeks after Charlie Kirk is murdered, I went very famously because there's 6 million views on this thing. Don't question my math. There's 6 million. There is. Don't question it.
But all right.
I don't know. Well, that's anti-Stu Wittek. But
There's no sound. Did somebody say there's no sound? We got sound, right? I just saw in the chat. That's what, okay.
like 6 million views. Tons of people saw this where I'm like, oh, that was a weaponized lavalier microphone that blew up, and that's what killed Charlie Kirk. The thing went massively viral. 2 weeks after that, AES, this production facility that delivered the micro explosives to the DOD, satisfied the order, which was delivered, by the way, via a private jet that flew from Orem, Utah to Eastern Tennessee and then back to Orem, Utah.
No way.
And it was Hibbs's jet.
That's
Okay.
insane.
Well,
That was again.
on the day
Hibbs?
that it explodes, October.
So that was Barron. He showed the flight path of where he didn't say for sure if it was Hibbs, but he's basically saying, I don't see a possible, maybe it's somebody else, but it really looked like it was Hibbs because here, I'll let him explain it. But
October 30th, which is 2 weeks after I released this, Utah.
No way.
And it was Hibbs's jet.
That's
Okay,
insane.
well, now on the day that it explodes, October 30th, which is 2 weeks after I released this video about an explosive killing Charlie Kirk rather than a 30-06 from a cross-eyed sniper who loves transgender furries. And apparently, he's so comfortable with all of this, he goes to Dairy Queen for a hot eat and a cool treat after he pulls off the world's most prolific assassination since JFK. But anyway, the day that this thing blows up, check this out. Tail number 99-0404, the plane almost exclusively used by the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. That morning, that plane left Joint Base Andrews and went to Fort Huachuca. The afternoon, when it left Fort Huachuca to fly back to Joint Base Andrews, at the time that this thing was smoldering after it had just blown up, the plane that Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses detours on its way to Joint Base Andrews to fly directly over the AES manufacturing facility that satisfied a $440,000 micro explosive order just ahead of Charlie Kirk's death, which blew up 2 weeks after I said, hey, explosives killed Charlie Kirk. The plane almost exclusively used another SAM flight, by the way. This time the call sign was SAM 112, and it flew over this part of eastern Tennessee where there's nothing else but this thing. And by the way, when the thing exploded, every employee on the inside died. 23,000 pounds of explosives blew up, killing everybody inside. There was like 16 or 23, I don't remember the exact number. Everybody in that facility died.
I haven't looked on this. It's the first time hearing all this. This is crazy. I'm going to research this after this.
And this plane reduced its altitude and reduced its airspeed to fly over that before then returning to Joint Base Andrews. Now, knowing all of that, everybody can go verify that. And then when you do,
I'm going to look all this up after this because this is just crazy and I haven't heard
and
this.
then when you do that, go to Grok and ask if this is true and this is true and this is true. What are the odds of all of this happening? It's incalculable.
Yeah, like 1 in a trillion. Or
it's not even that. No, Grok went on and on about why it's uncalculable and how this number would be. Okay, now how about this? On that same day, so for 30 years, the JTF Southern Task Force, the JTF Southern Border Task Force was commanded by the 10th Mountain Division, and they were based on Fort Huachuca. And it was the same mission for 30-something years. Same command. It was all 10th Mountain Division. Same command for like 30-something years. But when a division gets a promotion, it comes with like $100 million, new equipment, new flags, new unit flags, new insignia, new technology, new buildings, aircraft, all of this type of stuff. It comes with like, medals and ceremonies and, like letters of commendation and presidential recognition and parades. Like it's a big deal. And they got this 10th Mountain Division, which is based on Fort Huachuca, got this just ahead of Charlie Kirk's assassination, like 4 months. So when a division is promoted, all of that goes into it, right? And then when that division either completes its mission or its mission sunsets and their responsibilities are going to be passed on, the torch is going to be passed. Again, that comes with like huge presidential acknowledgement, trophies, medals, parades, letters, all of that shit. Nationally televised, whatever. It's a big what to do. Well, on the day that Pete Hegseth's plane, 990404, SAM 112, 30 days after Charlie Kirk is dead, and the same day that this AES plant blows up, that Pete Hegseth's plane decides to fly over on the scenic route back to Joint Base Andrews, the 10th Mountain Division was disbanded.
Wow.
It's just gone. 4 months after getting a $100 million promotion, and they were given command HQ status.
What was the reason? Would they have a reason for disbanding?
So I don't want to keep going on that, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of very strange things, right? And that was a very concise, like, ability to say, like, there might be a big conspiracy here. A lot of work has gone into this, and Stu ain't afraid to say it, man. I mean, shout out to him.
Yeah,
absolutely. Too many coincidences to be coincidental.
Exactly.
What do you think, Andy?
Hey, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't catch the sound on the video, and now I can't hear Teresa. So
you should have said something.
Oh no.
So I can't comment, but I like Stu.
Okay. Maybe if you pop out back in again.
You want to leave and come back? Just leave the studio.
Yeah, let's see.
Maybe you can't hear me either.
And just a quick plug. So Stu is primarily on Kick right now. He does also stream on Twitter and then on Rumble too. Those are kind of rebroadcasts, but he is on Kick primarily. And so people would be really wise to go and check him out. He is really doing an excellent job of following along with this investigation. It's Stu Peters, and you guys can find him there. A very worthwhile website visit. Quick, free promo, but he did have Andy on. They had a great conversation. Was that the same day that you were on with, that he was talking to John Cullen? Maybe that might have been the next one.
Yeah,
I think he
John
talked
was the
to
day
John.
after.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I just recently got Kicked so that I could listen to Stu, and he's just fearless.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know
And
what
we
I got
need that.
about that is he's been on about different types of this since Charlie assassination, and he seems legally fine so far. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know his inner workings, but I mean, he would probably stop, unless he doesn't have to. So kind of interesting.
he's a patriot first, and so
Yeah.
I think that regardless of the risk associated, he knows how important it is to make sure that this information gets out there to as many people as possible. So that's why he calls himself the people's bullhorn. So that's why, of course, having really, really wise investigative minds on there as often as possible is a big priority. Allie Top Files has hung with him. I've hung with him 5 or 10 times the past couple weeks, so it's been really wonderful. And Andy working with him was such a great deep dive. But he does those breakdowns, so people check him out.
Yes, please do. And subscribe to everybody on this stream and Andy on Substack too, please. Mm-hmm. So we did want to cover the drones, so that you guys can see what kind of capabilities these have, and possibly why these planes were over UVU and around St. George. Well, not necessarily St. George. Was that made? Did we go over that enough? Did you guys understand the significance of one of the planes on over St. George at the police station? Let us know in the chat. Just go over that again.
Yeah, we can do a quick little.
Do you want me to just throw up that clip of Barron that I had up? It explains it. Let me pull it up, and then I'll run it at 1 1/4 speed. Let me pull this right here. We go.
So essentially, the aircraft that flew over St. George, it flew over right when Tyler Robinson was turning himself in. I'm sure Barron's going to talk about it in great detail, but just to, make sure everybody's on the same page. The Hades jet flew right over Tyler Robinson turning himself in. And that jet is capable of putting text messages, Discord messages, etc., on on Tyler Robinson's phone. It scrambled out of California to get there on time. It flew faster than it's ever flown. And then instead of landing or even really pretending to, it just came down and circled that police station at a slow loitering speed right when those text messages were maybe going on to his phone. And then it took back off. So I'm sure Barron's going to explain it.
Yeah, but it's also one other curious detail was that it was very low, diagonally west of the sheriff's office, which places the aircraft in between the sheriff's office, i.e. the phone, and the cell towers. So the way this type of hack would work is for the aircraft to pretend to be a cell tower, take over the credentials of Tyler's for Discord, and then act as if the aircraft is Tyler. And the timing is quite exact also. And I remember I found this when I was speaking with you, Anna, back in April. Mm-hmm. Then I did send a tip to Barron. He might have found it himself too, of course. And that was the last thing I really found of it. But it's quite interesting that 8:57 p.m. it's at its lowest point on top of the sheriff's office. And 8:57 p.m., according to the first reports, was the timestamp of the confession message.
Yeah.
Another coincidence.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead. So this clip is about, I'd say, 7 minutes without the speed that I'm going to add on to it. So let's see what he says. He's going to, I figured I'll start it where he actually explains how here, let's just go.
Plane that is used by TPUSA. That's the plane that had been at Fort Huachuca before Candace broke the news of Fort Huachuca. Just to recap where we are and why we're talking about it. Why is a plane frequently, I don't want to say exclusively used by TPUSA, but I want to say frequently used by TPUSA. Why is a plane used by TPUSA going to Fort Huachuca? Now, this is October 4th. The morning of October 4th, it flies into Fort Huachuca, and then it flies to Kalispell. So we know that Kalispell was a destination that's, we questioned whether it was related or not, right? We had this question of are these Kalispell planes somehow related to all this? Let me just go back and do it this way. On the day Charlie Kirk was taken out, there was a mysterious spy plane. Tail number was
and shout out to Baron Coleman. God bless you, bro.
In November, N1098 Lima 1098L. And it is a Bombardier 6500 commercial plane, but it's being adapted for military use. And it's a spy plane. It's an ISR plane. The interesting thing about that is Fort Huachuca is sort of the nation's premier ISR training base. Intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. It's high-tech spy stuff. And this 6500, this Axel 10 plane, this N-1098L, these planes are being outfitted with some of the most sensitive military spy equipment ever known. The stuff you can't even imagine. It's able to intercept communications. It's able to deploy drones. It's able to do all kinds of crazy stuff. This is a fancy piece of equipment. On the day of the Big Bang, we know that this flight took place because we looked at it. If you've been watching a while, this is a little bit of recap. We knew this flight took place. It went from El Paso to Kalispell, and on its way up there, it did this little loop-de-loop. It was flying to Kalispell from El Paso on this little teal-looking line down here. It comes and takes a hard left. It goes over the southern part of Utah Lake. It flips back around, and it flies really low.
And that color actually, and I somehow I don't know how I didn't connect the two. Anna showed me the color. It shows the altitude. You can see down here. So as you get lower in altitude, you've got the color going more towards the yellow side of the spectrum, and then blue as it goes towards the higher altitude side of the spectrum.
That's exactly right. Yep. And so you can see right there, when a plane actually lands, then that altitude would show, all the way down to orange, right? That deep, darker orange color. So you can see that this altitude, now this is technically the altitude. Well, it depends on Barron's setting if it's got the adjustment for the height of the actual location. But regardless, that shows you that that plane, it never actually landed, even though that is what we would have expected. If this was a normal flight in a normal day, that plane would have landed at least for 20 minutes, but that is not what happened. They quite literally kissed the runway and kept going, a California stop. And it's so unusual and uncommon, except for these jets. And that tells us that these jets were definitely up to something, and that's what they do.
Oh, I'm glad you said about the colors, because I didn't put that together either. That's awesome.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of what we spend time on over on my channel is working through ADSB stuff. I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's amazing how much information you can get when you go looking at these open source investigative tools. And I want more people to feel like they can, take a look at this stuff and kind of know what they're seeing. The super rich and the military, they really do treat jets like they're cars. So it's a really great way for us to all get to take a look, see where everybody's at, who is everyone with, where'd they go. I call it the digital stakeout. And yeah, that's a lot of what I do.
Okay, awesome. Yes.
Killing it.
Really, really low. 114 knots it's flying. I mean, that's almost stall speed. If it went any slower, it would lose lift and fall out of the sky.
And to keep, so people understand, 114 knots for that plane is plenty slow enough to land it. You can probably land that plane at under 140 knots, I believe. Maybe even 160, but that's high. Usually jets would be closer to that. But 115 knots, you can land the plane. No problem. So kind of interesting.
And it's flying at like 100 or 200 feet off the deck. I know over here it says 5,100 feet, but you got to subtract the altitude. You got to subtract the altitude of Provo, which is like 5,000 feet in the air. And it's coming in and it makes what looks like an approach over Provo. Well, the interesting part of this is Utah Valley University campus right up here. So, I mean, it's just right there. It flies super low and slow right next to where the Charlie Kirk event is going to take place. And keep in mind what this plane can do. This is a very, very fancy plane. It's a very sensitive spy equipment. It can detect, I'll show you an article in a minute on what it can do. It can detect movement. It can intercept communications. It can, de-encrypt stuff that you think is encrypted that is being transmitted over the air. It's a very, very fancy piece of equipment. So that took place before the event. It took place about 9:16 a.m. About the time we're told Tyler Robinson showed up on campus, weirdly enough. Now, after the event,
You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you. So that was all while UVU event was going on, pre and I believe after, up to about 27 minutes, I think, after the shooting or whatever happened, the Big Bang was the closest it got, if I'm not mistaken. So now he's going to get into what happened after in regards to Tyler Robinson.
Let me add a quick thing about this timestamp. 9:16 a.m. in the morning, it was at this lowest point west of UVU. which happens to coincide also with the security setting up the tent at UVU, which commences at 9:20 a.m. Barron reported that about a week ago. And given that this aircraft has surveillance capabilities and is ground survey likely capabilities, it's an interesting coincidence as well.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Interesting.
The plane is flying back from Kalispell to El Paso. And it leaves Kalispell and it starts coming down and it flies down. And here it is again, just adjacent to Utah Valley University, which is right over here. Just adjacent to Utah Valley University. It's at 12:48 p.m. So just 25 minutes or so after the Big Bang. Tyler's on it. Charlie's on his way to the hospital. Exfil teams, if there was more than one person, they would be getting out of the area. It would be really nice to be able to have a plane with incredible technology on board that can bring in tremendous amounts of data using server racks that are actually on the plane in real time, process all that data and see what's going on the ground. That's what these planes are used for in real life. And again, it's flying at 123 knots, just over stall speed at 4,900 feet. I mean, right on the deck. And then it does its little loop around and then it leaves the area and goes back to El Paso. Now, we've seen these planes deployed in real life. They have one that flies back and forth over the DMZ or just south of the DMZ in North Korea. And I watch it on ADSB all the time. You watch it, it goes out, it goes in towards China, and it does a big loop and it comes out and it goes out towards number, a different plane, but the exact same program. And I'm going to highlight it here for you. This is the day Tyler Robinson turns himself in to the Washington County Sheriffs. There's a planned trip from one of these.
I muted again. I said, I love it when he says, and I know other people feel this way. It's like, I like when he says that.
Yeah,
very highly
He's great.
sensitive, fancy planes. This is September 11th, 2025. It leaves Ontario, California at 6:59 p.m. It lands in El Paso, Texas at 10:15 p.m. It's in the air a little over 2 hours. I guess you lose an hour going that way. And we had looked at every single plane that had flown in and out of St. George in and around the time Tyler Robinson was turning himself in. Because we wanted to know, was anybody else on the ground? And this plane did not show up on the local landing scheme because it wasn't supposed to be in St. George, Utah. I'll show you the track of the plane, and then I'll show you some telemetry of the plane. Here is the track of that flight. It leaves Ontario, California here on the left, where the little yellow plane is, and it's headed this way, and it's going to land over here. So you would think, what's the shortest distance between 2 points? It's a line. So you would think it would fly this way, right? It would go from here over to here, but it doesn't. It goes up here. And we zoom in and we say, what's up here? We can't tell. There's no labels on this map. This is tail number N2100L. It's the same type of plane. It's the same Hades program. So we go and we pull it up on the ADSB. You'll never believe where this plane went that night. This is while Tyler Robinson is at the station. This is St. George, Utah. This is where Tyler Robinson turned himself in. St. George, Utah. You can see if I back it out here, this plane leaves Ontario. It does not fly over here to El Paso where it's going. It flies northwest and it does a little loop over St. George, Utah. And at one point, it's flying very low and very slow, just like its brother plane did the day before at the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's flying 126 knots at one point, and then it circles around. The entire circle, it arrives on the scene around 2:35 Zulu time, and it leaves the scene around 3:10 Zulu time. So it was there about 45 minutes in this area right here. You can chalk that up to coincidence. You can see how it loses altitude after it passes Las Vegas and holds that low altitude and then drops a ton of altitude as it circles around St. George and then heads back out. You can say, oh, yeah, well, lots of people fly from Los Angeles to El Paso via Utah. I mean, I guess you could make that claim. But you've got on your hands an unbelievable piece of equipment. I'm going to show you a little bit about what this plane is capable of. This is an announcement from the company that made it.
We've been through this now. He just goes through the capabilities of the plane, but yeah, I mean, I just can't find that as a coincidence.
Oh, again.
Oh, you're on mute, Teresa.
Are you having a hard time? I think maybe he can't hear again. But Yeah, there are way too many coincidences. But do we want to get to the drone
Sure.
Yeah.
footage?
Sure.
Okay, so you guys can see these drones. So now for a long time, people were saying that they didn't see drones there. There was no drones there. Now security says they weren't allowed to have drones there, right? And they didn't have drones there. Charlie Kirk security. Am I remembering correctly?
Well, on
Yeah.
the stand, the defense counsel, Catherine Nestor, she made a point to specifically clarify with UVU officers that neither UVU nor the security team were deploying drones at that time. We do know that we saw contemporaneous footage both before and after that was drone footage, and we also saw videos of a variety of types of drones that were there on the scene during the event. So it sounds like everybody wasn't on the same page, but importantly, during the trial, there was no clarification on where those drones came from. The officer even admitted to having seen them. He just couldn't tell us who was controlling them.
Right. I wonder if that'll come out at the trial.
And
Okay.
Harpo, he himself said, "Oh, we couldn't have drones there. We didn't have clearance or all this riffraff." Yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Okay. All right. Let me put this clip up for you. Jimmy Dore show. Again, the link is in the description of my video.
It was so they could drop off the drones and then come pick the drones back up. And if you listen, John actually got the air traffic controller recording, and the air traffic controller like, "Hey, what happened?" And the pilot says, "Oh yeah, it's just we missed our landing." Well, if you missed your landing, why didn't you ever land? They never landed. So this is their cover story. And they just took off, and then so that's, if you subscribe to John's hypothesis that this was it was this plane coming down, dropping off the drones to kill Charlie, and then coming back to pick him up, it makes sense. So and we now know that there were drones on at the scene of the crime. In fact, this happened at the court. Let's listen to this. Is Tyler Robinson's defense attorney cross-examining the lead detective.
And as far as you know, were there any drones that were flying above campus that day?
Not that I know of.
At some point, there were drones in the air. Is that right? Did you become aware of that?
Yes, I was made aware of that.
Right. Do you know who put the drones in the air?
Sergeant Cam Nelson with the Provo Police Department.
Right. So it wasn't UVU?
No.
Did you guys even have drone capability? Did you have a drone on campus that you used?
No.
All right. So someone would have had to bring one after the shooting onto campus because you wouldn't have had one there.
True.
One area of conversation that I have.
So
To me, I'm wondering if they are going to cover this in the trial and talk about the fact that there were drones there and that they weren't UVUs.
Yeah, I think to raise that, I think that they probably will too if they're raising it in prelims. You don't. I mean, you can. I don't know what the requirements are. I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine maybe you would have to mention. Maybe I don't know. Maybe not. But
drones there. Did you? I mean, I don't know if you heard that, but yeah, there were drones there, and that guy didn't put the drones there. And now I'm going to show you the drones. John got this footage. Here's footage of the drones flying around as Charlie Kirk is going to be assassinated. Here we go. So all those red. So, and now we're going to show even more. So there's one right there. So there's more. I think there's more to this. Hang on. Let me make sure.
I think this was the hardest one to see.
Look
yeah, this
at
was
that.
difficult to find.
Nobody else is talking about this. Oh, nobody else is talking about these.
Where do you see
drones.
the next one?
There,
the
there's
next
see the
one's
red circle.
crazy.
That's a drone. That's
Look at
another
this.
drone.
Look at this. Watch how fast this goes.
There's drones all over the place. So it looks like 4 drones. Or 3. I'll say 3 drones. So there's another one. I think that's the end of that video. So let's bring John back in. Oh no, there's more. There's another one. Look at that. That's kind of mind-blowing that no one's talking about this. There it is. Here we go. There's more, actually. There's another drone. And it's right over the tent. It's right over the tent. Right over the tent. Can I say that 3 more times? Right over the tent. What is that? That's a drone.
But it's curious too that we know that it wasn't UVU, and we know that it wasn't TPUSA security, according to Harpo, and it wasn't the police until after the event. So drones are there. I mean, we can see them. So the question remains: where did they come from, and who deployed them?
Right.
And no one, I would argue, talks about them.
It has been a little bit of a challenge. I know that, something we've been working on is trying to identify the specific types of drones, specifically the ones that were seen in the Bartholomew footage. Those are the ones that I personally find the most compelling just because they're so troubling, given that they really do appear to be military grade and with no clear explanation. I know John was looking into them initially, for sure, but once he went on hiatus, I figured we had to figure them out. I think that I feel a fairly high degree of confidence that we probably know what they certainly could be. There's a few different systems, including Elbit systems, and there's a gas-electric hybrid one. But the important part of that is that the different size of drones, they all have different functions. The function of those larger drones is more aligned with reconnaissance or even detonation of a weapon, etc., that could be fired over the crowd or into the person. Those small little possible drones, I know that some folks really are convinced that they're dragonflies and other folks really do think that they're seeing drones. However, regardless, we know that the technology exists. And so just because that if it is a small drone, that small drone is there, it doesn't mean that it was firing a projectile. It could have been performing reconnaissance. It could have been there to distort camera angles, to act as different kinds of waypoints and relay stations. There's a lot of options with what the purpose could have been. But regardless, we know that the large ones were there and over the crowd. There's even a young woman, the footage that is from Adam Bartholomew. At the time of the event, he's standing away from the railing, and you can actually see a young lady notice a drone right at the exact moment, and then later, a second later, it flies off over the crowd. So I think it's compelling. Yeah, it's compelling.
Yeah. I wonder how big, if I were a mathematician, I'd be able to look at that video and kind of figure out how big those drones were. So next, Jimmy gets into talking about some of the capabilities of these drones, you guys. So take a look at this. See. And we have to be careful because from what I hear, sometimes YouTube can take down a channel or something if there's certain things shown. So if I stop it, that'll be why.
What we'll do is this, because I know I did it on the show I did the other day. We have a scene set up where the video can play through, and I'll switch it to where you can only see us, but you'll hear the audio, and then I'll flip it back when the firearm is removed from the scene, because YouTube doesn't like firearms, at least on lives.
Yeah, firearms on drones are not allowed unless you're flying them over UVU September 10th.
So the bird of prey is available with an M4 rifle.
This is it.
Firing a 5.56 round. And they suggest this for a range of 300 meters.
Do a quick flash so you can see real quick.
And then this is the Barrett Rec 10 in 7.62 308. for up to 600 meters.
600
Sorry,
meters. They say this
Elbit
drone.
sells this.
600 meters.
Elbit sells a flying Rec 10 in 7.62 and says it has 600-meter range.
600-meter range. Now, if you remember, John, correct me if I'm wrong. So you put the drone that you think took the shot, you put it over the science building, and did they not find a shell casing on the science building?
Well, what they found at the science building is kind of debatable because they didn't take it into evidence. They
Right.
didn't document it.
Right.
So, and the
Cullen is
Oh,
best known.
shoot.
Cullen is best.
Gosh darn it. Okay, so you guys remember that they found the bullet on the science building and they said it hadn't been discharged, right? You want to refresh their memories on that part?
Run that by me again.
Okay, so the bullet that they found on the science building hadn't been discharged and they didn't think to report it, or it wasn't that important. Do you guys remember that part?
Yeah. So apparently, one of the officers that were, I guess, canvassing the area on top of the buildings had a firearm that shot a 223. What I understand as, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but how I heard it was the officer charged the chamber, which means it pulled back and loaded the chamber with a bullet, and then walking around with a loaded firearm ready to pull trigger or on safety. And then for some reason, when he was done, this is what they said in court, I believe it was Bagley said in court, was that he had to not discharge, but get the bullet out because you don't want to be rolling around.
Empty the chamber, yeah.
Empty the chamber. So he empties the chamber, but when you do that, it flies into the air and then it'll go wherever it falls. And apparently he left it there and it wasn't actually shot. So it's an unspent 223 round. And that is their explanation of where this round came from. So I don't know how an officer is legally going to just be, they will send search teams out for a casing or a bullet from an officer, because you can't have that bullet out in public. It's just not, this is not something that happens.
Yeah.
Another coinkydink.
Okay.
The drone that you think took the shot, you put it over the science building, and did they not find a shell casing on the science building?
Well, what they found at the science building is kind of debatable because they didn't take it into evidence. They didn't document it.
Right.
So, and the police are allowed to lie.
Yes.
FBI is allowed to lie. This guy was on the case, but now he's not. The guy whose testimony we were hearing with the British accent.
Oh, they took him off the case?
Yeah, he doesn't work there anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he doesn't work there anymore.
So he did testify that they found a bullet or a bullet casing on the science building roof, right?
And then he tells you what he recalls to his best recollection. And what he's telling you is that an officer put his rifle into battery, which means on an AR-15, you pull the T charging handle and a round is now in the chamber, ready to be fired. And then cleared his rifle, which requires you to remove the magazine. Because if you do it again, another round is going to go in. So he then removed the magazine, operated the charging handle to eject the live round, left the live round on the roof of the science building, and went to Arby's. I mean, it's like, who did that? Who is the cop who did it? When you found the bullet on the ground, did you say, hey, Mikey, is that yours? Or was it an hour later, 2 hours later? Why was it not tent carded? Now, I've seen forged evidence before at the Vegas shooting. I've seen what the police department is willing to do to create a case, right? They broke the windows in Vegas. You and I are, we have to do a show on Vegas.
Yes,
I remember that.
When this dies down. But I've seen them forge evidence. And so for this guy to simply say it was an unfired round versus a spent brass casing, if what they found in the science building was a spent brass casing, That's the shot.
That's the shot.
That's the shot.
That's the shot. And it came from that Elbit drone that
I
has a
believe.
range of 600 yards with
I
accuracy.
believe. Now,
Yes.
the reason so why am I saying it's Elbit and not the Switchback? So the Switchback is another flying drone, but we didn't spend $6 billion with Switchback.
There you go.
We spent $6 billion with Elbit, and Elbit has this entire ecosystem of drones that talk to each other. You can play the clip, and the guy says one operator has 4 autonomous drones. He's not doing joysticks. This isn't DJI joystick shit.
Right.
This is facial recognition, target acquisition, infrared laser targeting, wind speed and direction determination by the drone flying over the tent. The drone that flies over the tent knows.
Operating 4 simultaneously, autonomously, separately. That's crazy technology.
To do a task, to get like one task. Imagine you like now we are familiar, most people, with at least the knowledge of AI agents. So imagine I'm sitting here and I'm coding, for example, just as an example, with AI. I can say, hey, you go do this, you go do that, you go do this. And at the end of it, once you're all done, we'll have a website built. It's basically a normie version of explaining that. One person can operate up to 4, and then they all have one mission and an agenda for each. And they're actually AI agents because they're AI operated. They're autonomous.
Right.
Yeah, and they would talk with each other as well. So they could solve the problem themselves.
You're a coder. How difficult is that, Andy?
Yeah, no, but it's difficult to create the AI and the technology, but we have it now. So, I mean, I couldn't do it tomorrow, but it's totally, I mean, it's much safer than to tell 4 people, go together and solve this problem. It's better to have the drones or the computers talk to each other and measure wind speed and have cameras and heat sensors, and they're much more capable than each individual. And then, of course, the theory suggested by John, it's a good theory, but there are, of course, other theories related to drones too. Not to discount John's theory, it's just that I only, in my research, want to stick to what can be proven and not to discount it. But it's definitely a scenario, and in particular, so if this drone that he's talking about is positioned behind Tyler, because that creates the right narrative. The shot blast would be very low, and only or maybe not even the sonic boom. The sonic boom might not even be there. But if it were, it would be confused with the other, because I think there was another rifle shot, just to confuse. But it holds together, although we haven't seen the spent casing yet.
Okay, so there are 3 drones, possibly 4. What's the significance of that, of them communicating with one another? How do you, what do you see each of those doing, and what were their purpose?
Well, it kind of depends on which one we're talking about. So myself personally, I have not seen what looks like the one that we were trying to kind of avoid showing on screen there. It's a very large drone, and it would be very challenging to get the right angle. And for myself, I have not found it to be exactly my flavor, thinking that it was a rifle shot. That's just, for me, that's not what I think at this time. However, a similar capability that is possible is to have that bird of prey, if it was there, it could have been loitering very, very high in the air, high enough that it may not have been seen, kind of out of sight of most of the students. And because those drones are connected to each other, it is very easy for them to say, hey, I want you to detonate a shape charge and fire a rifle shot at the same time. That's that multi-tokenization thing. Right, which would account for not only the correct microphone, if that was what happened, it could be sent off at the same moment that a round could be fired way, way, way high over the crowd. That would allow for both the sound quality, to be there from that actual, rifle sound, but it would also account for that little crack, as people describe it as a cherry bomb, And that's exactly what those drones are built to do. It means that they quite literally can talk to each other and say, hey, I want you to do both of these at the same time. In fact, they have a lot of autonomous drones, like Danks is talking about, that can go and they can look for someone's face. They could have uploaded a picture of Charlie Kirk into this, AI system and said, hey, go and find Charlie Kirk. Once that happened, it could very easily be in a fully autonomous system, quite honestly, that says, oh, target acquired, and detonate, rifle sound and detonate remote explosive in T-5, 4, 3. I mean, there does not even realistically have to be someone pressing a button. And
I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, that's the one that I worry about a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so one's possibly facial recognition, communicating target acquired. One's possibly able to detonate a shape charge, and another possibly simultaneously firing off a gunshot.
Exactly. The remote firing system, that's what they call basically a mounted weapon that is on a drone, similar to the one that we were showing. And it's very possible, for me anyway, that could have something to do with it. That facial recognition, I'm like, Danks, I bet you could find something really cool with the facial recognition, but they literally can just go and find someone's face. The reason I thought that might be an important element, if it was related to the microphone, if that is what happened, is because we know that there are two microphones that are identical. And what we have heard, I believe at this point in the investigation, is that because those two microphones are identical, one being placed on Charlie and then one being placed on, oh gosh, what's his name? Mr. Freak Out, Mr. Hunter Kozak. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Practiced. But anyway, he had the exact same sister microphone that was directly underneath his mic, right, that he speaks into. What I've spent a lot of time thinking about is, well, gosh, how could they make it so that they knew that Charlie's would go off instead of Hunter's, right? That's where, remote facial recognition software and stuff like that, it really does come in handy, because then they can say target acquired and, microphone located. Otherwise, how is it that we would know, unless Philip Goldsberry is the main mastermind, right? And I don't believe that there's any evidence that he is, but unless he is, then how is it that they ensured that the correct device was detonated? My best guess is that that's what that facial recognition was for, to make sure that it wasn't the wrong one. That's a hypothesis.
And okay, that's a good one. And then Andy, you were saying too, it can transmit information about winds, which would be important if it's firing a ballistic. Is that true? You're on mute. You're on mute. Can you hear us?
No. No, not yet. Mm-mm.
So while he gets that straightened out, so I think, he was saying it can send data about wind directions and speeds, right, which would be important for the firing weapons to know that information, so it can calculate where it's going to aim and at what heights and levels and all of that, correct?
Absolutely. Can we hear you yet, Andy? That's okay. We'll keep working on it. But again, you're exactly right that all of that kind of data is really important for them to be able to do things like zeroing in these remote firing systems and making sure that, everything took place in exactly the most streamlined way possible. There's a lot of variables. If you think about, if that's what happened, there's a lot of variables out there that they probably would have wanted to account for. You're back, yay.
Yeah. All right, you're here.
Sorry, my computer ran out of battery, because I didn't expect this long of a show. So I had a spare computer in my. Sorry for all of the promotions. So I'm very, very sorry. But maybe I interrupted you now, Anna. But the wind speed and stuff, I'm not an expert in sniping, but I know so much that the human sniper needs to know wind speed and similars. And if you have drones available, one can be, if you take the drone theory, one can be the shooter, another drone can be the measure of wind and humidity and other factors. But also one thing that is worth also thinking about, if there were drones there, and I think it was drones there, they would also need some way to communicate. They need to communicate with very low latency. They need to communicate securely without anyone eavesdropping. So, and especially if you're talking these tiny drones, they don't have any power. They want to minimize the use of power. So they needed to be some sort of wireless network deployed there too. I you know where I'm going with this, Anna, but
I do.
yeah, but I might as well do it. But it's a theory. But let's say there were drones there, and there were tiny drones. We need some way for them to communicate, and they need to communicate quickly, low latency. And one thing that I noticed, Blake many months ago had this theory of that there was a detonator in the pocket of Brian Harple, and he was fiddling with that. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the videos back then, we can see that it looks like Harple, not to point him out, but it looks like he's doing something in his pocket. But that's not my point. The point is that we could hear during the first question, when Charlie was speaking to the first person about the Mormon faith, then the audio gave feedback. So there was a lot of squealy sounds and typical audio issues. Mm-hmm. And you can see, if you look at the photos, a lot of disturbance amongst the audio guys and those in the team, that we have to do something about the sound. And seems like Harple, but something might have been dialed down. And my argument is that, my theory, of course, is that that's the control of the wireless network. It was dialed up too much, so it interfered with the audio. It had to be dialed down, but still the drones had to communicate somehow, and the signal is too weak. And I present as a theory that the source of that signal came from the famous van, because we know that the trunk pops open just before the action. And if the source signal is in the van, and it has to be close because these drones are tiny and they can't communicate for distances. So that could explain why the van opened the trunk. And it can also explain one more thing, and not that he was aware of it, but Frank Turk standing like this without seemingly watching anything could be part of a mesh network, a relay station for the network to communicate. It's a theory, but it makes more sense, I think, than some other things we've heard. I haven't spoken about this before, and I might regret it, but it's a theory.
It's okay to positive theory. I mean, what can we do? Right.
Yeah, I mean, it helps make sense of some things that really they're just disjointed and disconnected right now. So it gives some sort of concept of what could possibly have been going on, and why they were acting so funny. Because no matter what, you can't deny that all that looks really funny.
Yeah, I find it really compelling when Andy started discussing that with me. I find it really compelling. I really do, because that sequence of events, exactly like he explained, it really makes so much more sense if you think about the kind of coordination, and if we consider that we know that the video options, that the cell signal, all of that appears to have been disrupted pretty widely. So how would individuals be able to still communicate? Well, something remote like this, van or relay station, it really, it kind of puts things together in a way that I hadn't heard presented before.
Yeah. And it makes it really gives a good reason of why they were having so many audio issues in that feedback. And it was chaos in there for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see that on the persons involved that something is off. We have to stop this thing. and they find another solution, open the trunk.
And
Wow.
it does.
I must advise that now my AirPods is about to run out of.
They're about to go.
And
Okay.
He's saying we're on a timer here, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see. So, you guys go, we won't do the rest of the Jimmy Dore. Go back and watch Jimmy Dore. It's the entire episode. It's fascinating. And John Cullen is on with, him, and they go into detail about this bullet and the type of caliber that he believes that it was, that the shot was taken from a drone carrying do you call that a ballistic, the gun, like whatever kind of gun. Andy, do you know the kind of gun that he's thinking it could have been?
Yeah, I haven't read up at all on those.
And the caliber?
The name is I don't know the caliber. The name is Bird of Prey, but
Okay.
I thought it was a 300 blackout, wasn't it? Wasn't it the 300 blackout that he was positing? Would have been the correct round, but it's
I
a
think
remote.
you're right. Yeah, I think you might have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to talk about that those bullets pedal, so they have grooves in them at the tip, so they spread open, frangible, and so that could explain why and how pieces of fragments went separate directions and affected Charlie the way it did. So go look at that, yeah. Enjoy and look at all 3 of John's episodes on this. But let me get that off of here. Okay, and I think that's all we had for the clips. So Andy, I know your AirPods are about to die here, so we'll talk to you a little bit more before we go over the super chats here. But I really appreciate the fact that you've taken interest in care in this. Tell me, at what level, I'm really interested to know. I know we went over a little bit, but how does this affect you, even in what are your thoughts? I guess, how does this affect you personally? You're not even in the United States, but you have an interest in this. So personally, how does this knowledge of what the military's capabilities are and the possibility of them using it against Americans, how does that affect you in your country?
Yeah, it doesn't really affect me right now, although if I extrapolate where this can go, now we're doing it. It could have been done towards a high-profile figure such as Charlie Kirk, but if you look at this on scale, it can be like a method of control that is inescapable, and it can be targeted. Maybe it's looking at Gaza and potentially Americans, but it can be used here too. And also, I would like to say that hasn't maybe been my driving force in this. It's been more, I don't like when lies are passed around. I don't like when the truth doesn't come out. And so that has been more what's been driving me. And I have chosen not to speculate so much on motive or who, although of course on a personal matter, for myself and with my friends, I can talk about such things, but it's I try to leave that to others to conclude, and so I'm trying to stay neutral in a way.
So the global implications are that, like I was saying earlier, if it happened to our brother, our national brother, Charlie Kirk, then it's only a matter of time before it's on our front doorstep. And if it comes to our front doorstep, which, if you think about it, in the town like Provo, it's come to our doorstep, you guys. It's at our doorstep. That then it's only a matter of time before it's used globally in the way. And actually, they use it already over in China. These types of capabilities and against their citizens and in Israel. Actually,
yeah, and also as you have in the US, the expansion of the flock or similar cameras. I mean, the natural extension of those is, of course, to have chasers, and the chasers are drones. And the next step is to have chasers that can take action, and then and that's been maybe proven already to work.
Yeah.
That's right. It was in France recently, I believe, that they had had the experience of a French prosecutor, is it a prosecutor who was working on behalf of Palestinians at the ICC, and it went around Twitter. It made its way, I think, a week or so ago, that it would appear as though Greatest Ally Intelligence had actually gone and injected data into that person's phone, downloading thousands of contacts in Hebrew, and really, scaring the pants off this individual. But it did strike me, the fact that this happened in France. Unfortunately, Europe, most of Europe and its proximity to both the Greatest Ally as well as other conflicts is something that I think we as Americans kind of take for granted at times. We do have oceans between us and all of these things, as well as two countries bordering us that we're relatively calm, and do well with. But in Europe, there is a sense, in my impression, that it's closer than we think. I know Kasia, for example, she was having to deal with hearing planes take off from her house. So that we're heading over to the conflict. So I think that any person with a curious mind and who cares about this stuff should be looking into things for sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's look. There is one, I don't know whose super this is, and I don't know if you know how to tell or not, Anna, but if the super has a link on it, it's yours. So, but this is a question for Andy. Andy, have you looked into Elbit systems?
Yeah, I read the full comment here. I can note that this is a Swedish person, and maybe not.
Yeah, that's Philippe. That's the one. That's a Dankster right there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, but it's. I haven't looked much into it. I know I've looked into it enough to know what they do and what they could theoretically be responsible or party of here. John obviously is much more looked into Elbit systems. But Philip, reach out to me if you like and tell me more. I'm not the expert. John is.
Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll go through these in order here. This is for one of you two.
They show up completely differently for all of us, I think.
Do they?
In different order,
Okay.
yeah. So just
Okay.
run through them. Member for 4 months. Thank you, Moxie Rella. Welcome.
Thank you.
Jules
Thank you
Tinder.
for the jewels. Do you want to do that? Danks,
Yeah,
you're
you want me to run
probably
through it?
better. Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Maggie, what's up? Thank you. Base Zenial, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Mitch Snow. Let's go first.
Is that for me?
Whoever.
Well, I'm happy to answer it too.
I want to hear what everyone else says first before I go.
Well, no. So I have never spoken with Mitch Snow. I know that Andy did get the opportunity to do an interview with John Cullen and him. I've never actually spoken to Mitch Snow, and for myself, part of the reason for that is because I think that being as neutral as we can and objective as we can as an investigator is important. As far as any commentary on the man's personal and private life, I do not have any because I've never heard of a perfect witness. And part of the reason why I went to seek information about trying to find if we could find any corroborating evidence about Fort Huachuca was because I didn't want everything to just come down to the word of one individual. I do find the information to be compelling that is out there. I think it was the first episode that I did with Stu that we go over the Google Trend data and Fort Huachuca. So if anyone's curious about that, go take a look. But in general, all of us being objective and also just considering, all of the various pieces of information as neutrally as we can, I really think that that's kind of the point. And that's, in my opinion, the most ethical way to do it.
Yeah, and I've met with on podcasts and also spoken with him quite a few times. And I have no reason to disbelieve him in what he has testified to happening at Fort Huachuca. And obviously, the judgment of what did happen must come when we have corroborating evidence. I'm happy that I might have potentially contributed with some corroboration with the flights. And then I see it with the lens that when someone is attacked by information from previous custody fights and divorce cases, I just disregard it. I try to just create my own opinion on, does it sound trustworthy? And I think it does, but it's not proof that it's right. But I believe in it.
Danks.
Well, I will say that the information coming into Candace, look, she did what she can with the information she's got, right? I think that I will say this. The information can be correct, and that is where I'll keep emotion out of it. I think that there's a lot of people, including myself, that just will write somebody off as far as emotionally when physical abuse, especially towards women, is alleged or children. So for me, I haven't really had too hard of a time believing in what Mitch says, but I have never really given airtime to him regarding the conversations and stuff on my channel because, you know, I don't condone that type of stuff. So I prefer to just kind of look at it objectively, a lot like what you just said. If whatever is being said about the women stuff, you know, that's kind of how I see it. I just don't like that at all. But only God knows the truth. So for me, I've stayed very kind of agnostic, I guess, on him, where it's just like information is that, and I keep myself out of it, and I use that information the best I can for whatever we're looking at. But other than that, I have no other things to say. You know, that's just my personal outlook on it.
Yeah, I agree. Staying objective is wise. We still need information that's going to help us solve the case. And really, you know, the personal business, however we feel about that personally has to be left out of it. And that's actually not our business, because the part that is our business is what is true and what we can prove is factual and what we could use for hints of information that'll lead us further down the investigation. So.
I mean, the worst of the worst people can tell you things, like just pure demonic people out here can tell you things. And I'm not saying Mitch is one necessarily. I'm just saying, you know, believe people like these people that are running the world. If you're in my members only live stream, you know what I'm talking about on Saturday. These people are not good people, man. And they're telling us truthful things, and there's no reason not to believe them because they're putting forth action. Right. So I kind of see it that way.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you for the super chat. Renita Sophia, go Meech. Thank you for having a steel spine. My God, continue to guide and protect you. I have some ideas for a song you should put together. Thank you.
That was from another stream that I did with Mitchell Manley from TPUSA.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love
an
good
older
music.
one,
I
I
love a banger of an intro, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Amy, just wanted to say my support for Teresa. Thanks for this interview.
Thank you, Amy.
Yeah, Amy's the best. Oh man, I love her. Wands, you are brave, Mitch. We are too close to. I don't know why I can't read this stuff here. Let me see.
Turn back, keep going, stay visible, and know you're supported.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
and I think
Wands.
that's another thing is like you can still support the truth whether you agree or not with a certain or particular personal life. We're still searching for the truth, and I think that it's very easy to get blinded by testimony of other people and all this stuff. And I don't think Valhalla VFT necessarily meant anything bad towards Candace. He got a lot of smoke because he was exposing these things, and people just, you know, it was interesting to watch all that unfold. And God bless everybody. You know, I want the truth, and I think that it seems like Mitch is trying to get to it. You know, I don't know, but it seems that way. Look at how much has come out since then. If he didn't come forward with that information, we wouldn't be talking about 702, most likely.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So, hey, I'll give him credit where credit is due, man. You got to.
Yep.
All right. Jackie Delaney, welcome. If you're a member on my show, we do Saturday members only live streams every Saturday morning Pacific time. All right. Welcome. Thank you for the jewels. Holly, killing it. Holly, thank you. Cool Pigeon, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. More memberships. Critter, Dankster membership. Say thank you
All
if you got
right.
them.
Thank you.
Yay. Thanks, Craig. Appreciate it, honey.
Yeah. Good to see you. Jen Common for the baby fund. Congrats, Dank.
Woo!
Thank you. Baby's sleeping with the wifey right now. So thank you, Jen. Good to see you, girl. Appreciate you. Remember in late 2024 when people were reporting seeing identified flying drones everywhere and the government had no answers? Yeah, was it drones?
Yes,
or
that was
orbs or
in
both?
Jersey. That was
Yeah,
over
the-
Jersey. That was in 2024, late 2024. They were everywhere. Anna and I were just talking about that this weekend. Crazy.
That was
They
yeah.
denied it for a long time.
They denied it for such a long time. It would appear that it was part of that testing and evaluation phase for Anduril's new CCA program. And like for my folks at home who research along, go check out Anduril's CCA because it certainly would appear that that's what they were testing on. And just like that, they didn't tell the public. They just cared about the profit, right? They just cared about the effectiveness of the system. And I get the feeling that, you know, with Hades, that could be what we see too.
Well, and they're testing them on us.
Yeah.
You know, don't forget that.
Yeah, that's the thing is like, what was all that? And then it just stopped.
It just
It's
went away.
weird.
Yeah.
Or stopped being talked about at least. Thank
Yeah.
you, Renee. Hey, good to see you, Renee.
Renee?
Got a new membership here. Barnes. See, Barnes
Hey,
is an avid.
Barnes.
He likes Elizabeth Lane, and he started.
Yeah.
I think he or she. I think coming over to this side. It's good to see Barnes.
Yes. Good to see you.
Where's Space Force or Air Force? NASA Fort Bliss was one of the paperclip bases. Oh, interesting. Operation Paperclip? I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that Space Force was previously primarily located at Peterson Space Force Base, that's in Colorado, and then they just went ahead and broke ground. Actually, Pete Hegseth flew in SAM 702 over there to the groundbreaking for the Alabama new Space Force location. So, small world, right?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Barnes again. Google search pseudo satellite and look at the images. Also, high altitude pseudo satellite image search. Oh, interesting. I'll screenshot that. For
Thank
later.
you, A. Barnes.
Thanks, bro. All right. Jen Common. I love how Erica Kirk has no questions about any of this. LOL. If you think this is a sane response of a loving spouse, you are married to the wrong person.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Erica. Push your government for answers because, like I said on a previous stream, 10 million of us cannot be wrong. We are not wrong. So, you know, help your husband out.
At least wrong on suspicion, at the very least.
Yeah.
You know, at the very least. Like, how can you not be suspicious? I just don't. This is so crazy, man. And convicting in the court of public opinion just constantly. It's just terrible, man. And I say it all the time. It could happen to any one of us or your family members or your friend or your neighbor. God forbid.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying to Mitchell, I mean, it's like when that friend or your loved one has a bad relationship and you keep telling them this is really bad. These things that they're doing are bad. Like, be suspicious of this person, and they're just they choose to not be and to not listen or look. Go, your government is a bad boyfriend.
Yeah, it's like the boyfriend that just like shows up home after the bars after working a shift at like a call center and just gets drunk, comes home, beats the wife, like yells at the kids, and then goes and shoots the machine gun in the backyard until he passes out. You know, that's what it feels like.
Yes. Yeah.
For lack of better words.
And cheats the entire time.
Yeah, and cheating the whole time. Yeah, exactly. You got the drug dealer showing up in the driveway. You got DJs showing up for the party. I mean, it's crazy over here.
Yeah.
Helga, shabalaba ding dong, $4.99. There was a small airplane flying around shortly after Charlie was taken down. It had a red underbelly. I'm not.
Were you
familiar.
there? Where'd you hear this? Can you put that?
She was there. She lives there and was there. Yes.
I'm like, mods, ladies, mods.
Guys,
I'm like,
I'll be in Utah. I'll be in Utah this week and for the final day of prelims on the 1st. So happy to meet with you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's her. I think it was her. And I've been trying to get her to talk, but to no avail. But it's okay, I understand. A Barnes, do y'all think the spy tech is for the people or to be used against the people? Wake up.
Listen, we don't want to lose any good boy credits, good goy credits or whatever. So I'm sure it's up for us to use it, right? You know?
Yeah.
What are Kimball Mastros? I'm not. So I looked that up because I saw that coming in.
Are
there
these
are no
Kimball
widely known.
Masters? Huh.
Yeah, it says I couldn't find anything, but I haven't looked that hard. But yeah, I definitely have that saved, so I'm gonna check it out, bro. Thank you for the jewel lamb. Walking worm, that's the homie right there. Oh, so this dude right here built this website. He's in my Club Batra community, and what he built is the ability to track all the FOIA requests that have been submitted, the timeline that they're on. I might be able to pull it up. I think it's worth showing.
That's cool.
Yeah, let me find it real quick. Here, walking worm food. Give me 1 second and I'll pull it up. And then he posted it the other day, right here, yesterday. Unless he, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, let me open this.
That's interesting. That's an interesting question.
Let's see here. All right, here we go. I only briefly looked at it the other day when he showed me. So public records, government records obtained through public records requests published here so anyone can read and download them. Each entry states what the record is and what it says. I'm going to put this in the chat. It's records.nomergerwithoutdebate.org. And then you could click in here and it shows FOIA records. And then you can view, download, see the response, and it goes on and on and on and on.
That's
and he's
fascinating.
and then the grandma as well. Yep.
Yeah.
So definitely check it out.
Walking worm food. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Okay, and it's a great question that he's asking about. So for signal jamming, and I'm like, well, maybe Andy would have a better piece of information about like if it would go to 480p specifically. It's not super my wheelhouse. I do know that they can do signal jamming and signal degradation from that aircraft. I just don't know off the top of my head about the 480.
Yeah, no. I think I have the same information. I haven't verified it, but that's what's been reported for them, one of their capabilities, which is curious, of course, given that we see so poor resolution on almost all of the photography, except for the live striving, which is a Logitech camera.
Right.
Maybe is not coverage for.
Yeah, I mean the amount of work that people are putting in, it's just, look at what we've got. We've got this massive open source communication investigation. There was I forgot who told me this the other day. Either I watched it or heard it or something. But they were saying that one of the founding fathers, I think it was, I can't remember, but they asked him, maybe it was George Washington, I can't remember. Do you prefer a government, central government, or the newspaper? And he said the newspaper. And this was back then. Like, there's more authenticity coming out of journalism. There's more effort coming out of journalism for truth, because we don't have much incentive, because it puts us at risk. It costs us money and time. And also, there's not money in all of this. Like, he's not making money, this site that he built. I'm not making money on americansfortransparency.org, but we do it because that's what journalistic integrity is the truth despite the cause and the outcome. It's we have to just, so God bless. Shout out to Walk and Worm Food for that.
Yeah.
Crit, thank you for the Danks membership. If you got one, holla. Hey, Maria with wrinkles, good to see you. 5,500 SEK. Just wanted to share some love to my Dankster. Love, Maria from Sweden. Pray for the safety for you and the fam. Christ is king indeed. thank you. You know how much we appreciate you, and you know, all the baby funds get screenshotted over to the wife. So we appreciate
As it should be.
Yep. She keeps tabs on that. So thank you. All right, and all the safety to the family. When it's family, I send it to the wife so she knows we got support over here.
Yeah.
Walking Wormfruit, Boston gains most from CK death.
Yeah.
You know,
The administration does too.
That's why I think that considering the fact that Miriam Adelson seems to be kind of a really strong tie between those, and we talk about Mima a lot on kind of what we're working on over on my channel, because I do think that when we think of the greatest ally, we should think about more than just Bibi himself, right? There's a lot of characters that are big time players. I am particularly interested in her because they're the wealthiest people in Israel. And purchased a president here. Yeah. So there's a lot of pieces to it to keep in mind. But when you say Israel, you know, it means more than one person. Not that he couldn't be involved. He could be, but there's just more than one bad guy over there. So.
Yeah, they definitely benefit, I would say, for sure. 100%.
For sure.
Yeah, in many ways. But especially with all the technology infrastructure they're doing over here. And I mean, it's just Charlie gone.
Did you hear about Ondas? Did you hear about this Ondas thing? Did you guys hear about that? That's
maybe.
the new,
what is that?
It's the new surveillance system that they just. And so Palantir partnered with Worldview, and I believe that they're trying to get in with either Flock or with Axon. I don't know which one. Worldview is the spy satellite company, and then they actually work with a company called Mistral, which is the drone maker that I personally believe that we saw at UVU. Anyway, they all partnered together, made a new company called Ondas that's now jumping into U.S. defense manufacturing and trying to compete with the big primes. And 3 days ago, they installed a new global chief of technology, and that is David Barnea, who is the director of Mossad. So
you said
that's who's running our Mistral.
Mistral.
RAL.
Yes, and it's not Mistral AI, the French company. It's Mistral, which is actually just a pass-through for Israeli technology, so that they can come and use it here. Yeah, they're from Baltimore. They were kind of, like the new Primes guys, the Founders Fund guys, and the PayPal Mafia guys. It's kind of seems like their effort to try to come in and actually compete with the main prime contractors. And wow, wouldn't you know it, there's David Barnea running the whole thing. So
wild.
Congratulations. I'm like, yay, like global surveillance. It's really, so.
Jeez.
I know.
Waffles, $9.99. You think this administration cares what the Constitution says? They've been wiping their butts with it since January 21st, 2025. They don't and won't think twice about using the force against us. I don't. Well, this is the thing.
I know.
When you think about this, okay, the people that are in there are Americans. Do you really think that all these military people are going to come after their own civilian population?
I worry about the fact that may have something to do with what the drones are for, because what we have seen is that drones and autonomous technology make decisions that I do think that our soldiers and sailors would be more hesitant to think about. So,
yeah.
Drone warfare is not great.
That's the scariest thing. Did you guys see that
well,
video?
How do you imprison AI? Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I was just saying the drone that Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the video. He was chasing this guy around his little flower shop or whatever and just blew him up.
Yeah, it's really, really tragic stuff. Yeah, especially the footage that comes out of that conflict with Russia. Yeah, it's really awful. And honestly, there's not a great deal of anti-drone technology, but I'm sure that Anduril or whomever else is going to be able to sell us some incredibly expensive anti-drone technology soon enough. And I guess in the meantime, we cross our fingers and let it happen. Like, that's why I'm like, these conversations are so important, because if there is any opportunity to do something, we better do it now.
Yeah, and keep pushing in your communities against Flock and with your legislature.
Yes, and Axon too, because Flock is really definitely a problem. They have seemed to want to say, okay, we'll get rid of Flock, guys, don't worry. And then they get a contract with Axon.
Something else.
Yeah. So it's the same problem. So
yeah, just like weeds. It just, you get rid of one and another one pops up.
Right. Yeah.
Ridiculous. You want to read that one, Anna? I think it's.
Oh, Anna, have you read the book Spy Fail by James Bamford? No, I have not. I think you'd appreciate it. Related to Mr. Mima's army. Air ad Milchan Beebs LV. Yes, please. I will read that in a heartbeat. That sounds amazing. Thank you so much for that, BH. I appreciate it. Yeah, well, we've got our bedtime reading, huh? Great.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, this stuff never happens for just one reason.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
Certainly. Anna. This one's Anna as well.
Lizzie, thank you so much. Anna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Like, how many? That's okay. I will take you, but if I can drop it in there a little bit, then I will. You continue to rise. So happy you and Andy Loue have teamed up with this incredible data. Drones and spy planes. Oh my. Thank you so much for that support, Lizzie. Your support, I'm like, I tried not to get emotional on stream when I saw you send it before. So thank you. But I couldn't agree more. I am so excited and fortunate to be able to speak with Andy and have him now coming out and talking and, and stepping forward like, other brave voices like Teresa and like Danks are doing. So thank you for that support. And yeah, oh my gosh, I'm going to go pick his brain off camera. That's what I was doing before we started the stream too. So
yeah, no, everyone's been doing great work, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of this community, man.
Yeah,
Seriously.
same.
Thank you, Georgina. Thinking it was a PD to snipe out TR Turner Pie $1.99. Police department. I'm thinking it was a app. Police department to snipe out?
Possibly.
That's interesting.
Oh, maybe the plane. Maybe?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's thinking that I think John was in this too. That the aircraft flew there to do Jack Ruby on Tyler in St. George. So they knew he would come to the police station, and they came there with drones to take him out.
I wanted to play this 20-second clip, and I want to get your opinion. I just pulled it from my live stream, and I want to about this. So let me just play it real quick. What if Terrell Farnsworth was giving that video footage from the SD card to that plane? What if he needed to put that SD card into the computer for them to be able to extract it? So that was kind of a fleeting thought that I had on a live stream, was like,
expand on that, please. Will you please expand on that? That's fascinating.
Because I just was it kind of hit me because I don't know the technological abilities of extracting data from the plane, if that's the case. But it just kind of hit me. It was like, well, if the plane was flying in that area and up to almost 30 minutes after the shot, well, within the next 20 minutes of the Big Bang, Terrell is doing all of this stuff urgently. Well, what if the plane and the data from the SD card needed to be extracted? A lot of people say it just needed to be destroyed. I don't agree with that. I think they need the data and they want it, because when you're doing these things, you need chaos data. That is the way that you're able to actually use real-time chaos and destruction and be able to measure with AI the crowd and everything that happens, because you can't test that in a fake environment. It needs to be real. So what if he needed to get that information out to wherever, and then maybe he altered it, whatever. But my thought was, at that moment, the timeline seems very interesting, and he's very rushed to do something. What if it was pulling it out of the camera, putting it into his computer, saying, hey, he was showing his other guy, is this the right, maybe am I doing this to this? Is this the right way to get this information? I don't know. But is that a possibility?
Well, and also, so potentially, I would assume, this is pure spec, but if they saw this shot go off and they knew right away that there was a problem, right, because it had clearly shown something different than they expected, I can imagine that if they were watching through the drones, for example, they would love nothing more than a rear shot to see if there was an exit wound, for example, on the back of him, right? Because they would need to know right away, how bad is this that we messed up? That's where my mind goes with that. And I think that would make perfect sense. That's a brilliant thought, Danks. I'm like, we're writing that down.
Yeah, because you need some type of interface that has internet, maybe Bluetooth, maybe GPS, or all of them. I don't know, what would be needed. But I would imagine you need some type of network, at least a cellular network, or a Starlink network. Because you're not going to do that on a public network, right? So maybe they have a Starlink. I don't know. Or maybe something else.
You know that you can actually look.
Sorry, Anna.
I was just going to say, you know that you can go back historically and check Starlink locations that they do have. That's public open source data that you can take a look over, I think, the past year. So if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
Nice.
But on that question of yours, Danks, I saw it on X. It was an intriguing question.
Yeah.
And I first immediately thought, well, that makes sense. They needed it out quickly, transported and analyzed. But it could also be that the camera was indeed networked. Because if they thought about every eventuality and every detail, why wouldn't they have networked that camera too? So maybe instead they saw remotely the value, or rather this value of that shot. So they told Tyler, Terrell, you have to get it out. You have to get the SD card out now. Because they knew what was on it.
Get it out, delete it, and change it or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, get it out. It doesn't explain why he was sitting with his laptop, but that could as well be the explanation.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That was it felt like a revelation. I don't know if it is, but it feels like one.
It had my wheels turning.
Yeah, I've been spinning on it since I said it. Sandy, Colorado, live for 10. Great work, Anna and team. Much
I'm
respect.
gonna kick you.
Oh my gosh.
It's a habit now. Everybody knows
Anna.
I love Danks. And by the way, shout out to my sister who I know is watching. She said that her very favorite episodes of mine are when I hang out with Danks. She's like, those are my very favorite episodes, the ones I actually watch. Thanks, sis. So hi.
Hey, Anna's
Thank you,
sister.
sis. Hey, Anna's sister.
Yes, thank you guys. And hey, Sandy, thanks for being here. Love you so much.
Thank you, Sandy. I almost said Sandy because I
Sandy, Anna. So fancy.
Pronounce my off. Lena, $5. Hi, guys. Great show. Andy, I researched Haiti's capabilities and couldn't verify an ability to hack a civilian's cell phone. Where did you find this info?
Yes. Yeah, no, I couldn't find that either. So I rather thought, how do you hack someone? And it's called man-in-the-middle attack. And it's if you go to a coffee shop and you connect to that Wi-Fi, let's say Starbucks. If I were to be a villain, I could bring my laptop, expose a network called Starbucks. You connect to that network, and all traffic goes via my computer. But you are in the belief that you are just on ordinary Starbucks Wi-Fi. So that's why it's important, I think, that the aircraft was positioned between the sheriff's office and the cell towers. In other words, it presented itself as a cell tower. And Tyler's phone wouldn't have known the difference. And then all the traffic goes via the aircraft. It snaps the authentication token and can act on behalf of Tyler. So
it's like an interceptor.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been used like tens of years ago on Cessnas for nefarious and law enforcement reasons. So it's not unknown. It's the most common hacking technology. I'm not a hacker, but I know how it's done. So
now that we've got AI. That all of that, because of how significantly powerful, especially Anthropic's AI systems and models are, their strong suit is security and hacking and black, gray, all that, So these black, gray hacking capabilities, for some reason, they thrive in this type of environment. So things to think about. It's only going to get crazier from here. gifted 5 memberships for Anna.
All
Honor.
right.
So much. Oh my gosh, Carmen. I'm so glad. Carmen recently joined Team Small Potatoes, and she's wonderful and amazing. And thank you for bringing more people onto the team. Thank you so much. And I love your little cartoon. It's adorable. I didn't see
cute.
it up close. It's so cute. Thank you, dear.
Julie, $1.99. See, I think she's tricking me because just say Julie, and I just say Julie now, Julie only. So $1.99.
Just say-
Follow directions. Look at that.
Great collab, great info. Thank you all, Crisis King. Thank you, Julie. It's good to see you. Court Dog, may God bless, protect all. You all, Crisis King. Thank you. Good to see you, Court. Hope Bean with the banger, $50. Good to see you. Thank you all, and wanted to give a shout out to congratulate Danks on the new blessing of to his family. God bless you all for seeking the truth. Thank you very much. You know where
How
I
is
went?
the
where
baby?
Baby's good. We are what's today? Monday, 8 days now. Yeah, he was born on Sunday. So it's a lot of sleeping, but very chill. And she says he's going to be like you. I hope he has more energy than you. You're so chill, you know? So, but I was like, no, like, let's keep it that way, please.
Yeah.
Like, I want to chill. Like, my daughter, she's a sweetheart, but she definitely had a lot to say when she was a baby. Let's put it that way. But
And I
thank
have
you.
little Buddha. Congratulations, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
What a
Yeah, we
blessing.
got a little dude now, so pretty exciting stuff. Thank you, Hope.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, ladies. Roddy Mom, $20 to all. We appreciate all of your hard work. Charlie deserves justice through truth. Free Tyler Robinson. You know, I agree. I mean, I agree that truth is deserved. I held back on my Free Tyler Robinson merch because I just, we don't know what's going on exactly.
We don't know
right?
how he was involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to. I mean, I would feel weird doing it, but I did make some merch for that. And if he is actually proven to be somehow innocent and somehow gets time, of course, free him. This is not. We don't want this. We don't want innocent people if they are indeed innocent, or even if they got duped or tricked into something. It's like some people they might seem smart, but out of the box. Maybe they're not in some regards, and they're kind of naive, or I'm naive. I've had people trick me a lot because I want to believe in the good in people. So people taking advantage.
Especially when they're skilled in government ops like that. If that's the case.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Keith, member for a month. I wonder if CK was doing events in the area of all of those drone sightings around Jersey. Maybe if he was. Those was failed attempts. That's interesting.
That's an interesting perspective, Keith. I'm definitely going to keep thinking about it. My impression, so just to clarify, my impression is that the specific drones that were seen around New Jersey were part of this very specific CCA program that Andrew specifically, who's Palantir Jason, of course, was working on. So I'm like, well, gosh, now I got to add to the list of the drones that we got to track into, because I don't know. I didn't see any evidence that they were there on 9/10, but I didn't see that they weren't. So we'll keep on with that. And thank you for mentioning it, Keith. You're the best.
Thank you, Keith. I dropped it in our group so we can maybe take a look later.
Okay, thanks for the best too.
Yeah. All right. A Barnes, $4.99. Why do real intelligence agencies and cybersecurity agencies do not have public spokespersons to disseminate information? Are they only used? Yeah, it would be interesting to have like a secretary for every single. I mean, I'm sure they do, or not a secretary. What is it? Is that it? No.
Just have a spokesperson, and every base does. Every base has a spokesperson. So the idea that they are, closing ranks, but I mean, I don't know. They're probably out on the Lincoln right now, fighting with each other to try to get a hot meal. It's really unfortunate, the position that people are being put in that are service members, but at the very least, Fort Huachuca, they should at least hold a press conference, clear the stuff up if they didn't do anything, right?
Yeah, but also they can lie to us. They might as well just try. You know what I mean? It's like, what are you doing?
At least try.
At least we deserve better psyops. That's the truth.
Seriously, man. My goodness. Thanks, Barnes. Good to see you. Jonathan Yeager, new member. Welcome. Known as Fave, $10. Thanks. Now a second time listener and loving the content. Thank you all for pursuing truth for Charlie Kirk. God bless you all. Much respect from your Ellie family. Thank you very much. God bless. I appreciate you, Nona. We're all just doing what I guess I was watching. It's funny. I was watching Nick Fuentes, I think it was yesterday. And even though he was talking negatively about Candace, which whatever, he did say something important. And he said, if we are blessed by God to have this right here, what we are doing, then it is our duty by God, if you are a believer or whatever, or if not, to the people that we are serving. Because in reality, we're kind of like public servants in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's our responsibility to hold it in a high regard and try to spill truth. Now, is Nick doing the same? I don't know. You make your own decision. But I find that very interesting. I never thought about it that way. He said it, elected by God. And I find there to be truth in that. Right. So that's what I'm here. I'm not saying I'm elected by God, but I'll definitely tell you, I prayed every day about it.
Yeah, I had said something, similarly the other day is like sometimes God gives you a megaphone, right? And it's your duty to pick it up and use it, and to use it for good. And you ride that, when he puts that in front of you, you ride that wave, and you ride it as hard and as fast and as well as you can, and you just go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a YouTuber such as you three, but I can only testify to being a consumer of this type of media. I mean, what you're doing is so important, and it's it's also heartful to see all these appreciations you get, and you do deserve them, because we, as you know, the mainstream media is doing something else. So your voices are super important. So keep it up.
Well, yeah, yours too, Andy. You're doing it in the way that's comfortable. Everybody starts at the level that they're most comfortable and works their way how they do. But this started because you wrote your Substack, and John Cullen picked it up, and you got that megaphone, and you're riding that wave the way God intended it for you to ride it.
Yeah. But thank you. And on that note, I also would like to do a shout out to account Miss Independent, because she was the one that nagged John with my article, and he had no idea of it, and so she made it happen. And here
awesome.
We are. So thank you.
Go follow Miss Independent, guys, on X.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Good to hear. Yeah, thank you for the kind words as well. You're doing great too, Andy. Hey, Barnes, I'm losing money and I'm already poor. Got to pay to play. Don't lose money and then don't be poor. Don't do that. But we appreciate it. I hope that's not true. Thank you for the membership, Jonathan. We appreciate it. Saturday members only live streams, 11 a.m. Pacific time on the Danksters Intel channel. Jenny Huffman, with regard to the women with the EMP theory, could the drones have helped in that scenario? Are you familiar with the EMP theory?
I've heard ADN, who's another really wonderful YouTuber. She's ADN 1776, and she recently had a woman on who has a theory about possible EMP activity, and it's compelling. It is. I'm actually, she just messaged me, and I'm hoping that she and I are going to get together for our girly YouTube. We do a ladies roundtable thing, and hoping to add her in and hear more about that theory, because it's really fascinating. It's really, it's worthwhile thinking about all of these different types of technologies that we need to continue to consider. We cannot get too stuck in one theory and hold on to it past the point of new evidence as it comes up. And so keeping an open mind and being flexible, that's important. Yeah.
And if people don't know, this EMP is electromagnetic pulse, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a way to send some type of a wave of a certain type, a signal or a wave that is like a weapon. It could be used to do various things. It could be used to make sounds in your head. It could be used to blow you out of the air if you're in a plane. It could be used for all kinds of things. And it's all based off of waves and sound and very stuff way out of my league. Is that right, Ana?
Yes, I believe so. That's from my limited understanding of it, but that's why I think that it's so important to keep looking into this stuff, especially as people continue to bring up these very valid theories. Yeah.
Well, the weapons
I
against us are becoming more sophisticated, so we have to rise to that and open our minds and really make an effort to understand what's happening.
Yeah, and I can add to the EMP. I read her Substack. I'm sure she wrote more, and I haven't understood everything of it, but at least it would explain a lot of things that we see. For example, the reported autopsy findings. So, not knowing how it works, so I'm very novice in it, but many people should look into it and try to validate it or help her out.
Well, Erica's mother, Lori Fransby.
Lori.
This is what she was working on later stages of life. Yeah, I mean, that's why they were in Arizona, as I understand it. Could be wrong, but I believe that's what it is. So, and this has been around. I think they were deploying EMPs in Cuba in the 70s. So this is not new. You know, Nana for the dub, $20. Great show, all of you. Could you possibly show everyone of John's videos of him counting the drones that were spotted? In case people haven't seen them, thanks, you guys. So glad you're covering this. If you go to his page, John Cullen, or Project Constitution also has a really great video that shows them circled in red and shows all of those. You can easily find them if you just type in UVU drone footage or something like that, and you can see very clearly there's a multitude and variety of size and types of what seem to be drones. Definitely flying objects. Some people have said, are they bugs? Some of them, some kind of look like bugs.
Because they're
Trigger
little,
smart. We got into an argument. I'm like, it doesn't. Why would a bug shine all in white like that? And the sun is over here, and he's like, you know, but he's very rational. He's like, I'm not saying it is and isn't, but you have to look at the way, you know. So these conversations are definitely being had, and I will say for sure there are drones. I just don't know if all of them that are being pointed out are indeed. Thank you, Nana. Stacy, thank you. Nana, back again. Great show, everyone. Thanks to all of you. Hi, Danks. Hi, Nana. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the 20. Maria with wrinkles. What do you make of BB paying a visit to Iceland? Well, I don't know if that did that happen. Is that true?
No,
Okay, I feel like
it was a delegation, but or some people were there, but I didn't hear that people were there. Maybe it was.
Well, he would be arrested, I think, in Iceland if he were to be there. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever heard that, but I'll definitely look into it.
You need to ask Allie Top Files about it. She would know.
Yeah, but
What I do, I remember that actually him and Trump flew and together, I believe, and they avoided Icelandic airspace, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Either they flew together or they met. Oh, he met. No, I'm sorry. He flew to meet Trump, is what it was. And do you remember the story? It was very fleeting in the news, social in independent media, where he was flying and he had to avoid certain airspaces, or they were going to like take him down or something like that.
He used to. It was at the point even a few months ago that he was only able to fly a very specific route all over Western Europe, and it got to fewer and fewer and fewer countries, and who knows what happened. But now he just goes right over Greece, Italy, and France. But yeah, he's an international criminal, so you know. Yeah,
this is scary. I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like this guy.
I wish Mamdani had been able to. In New York, they said that if he came to New York recently, Mamdani said that he was going to order him to be arrested. So if only.
Yeah, I doubt that.
If only that had really happened.
I think he's playing a marketing politician.
Yep.
That's what it sounds like to me. Nana, congrats on the new bundle of joy, Mr. and Mrs. Danks. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Boom. Screenshot it. Axel 10 flew over 20 minutes after. Terrell sent info then. See, that's where I'm thinking. Is it because I don't know the timelines that well as maybe some others. but I'm pretty. Is that timeline match for you, Andy?
Yeah, the 20 minutes after, I think it was 25 minutes after the boom, that it was at its lowest point. So if Tyrell was by his computer by that time, this is a valid idea. I mean, he would then send it securely, let's speculate, to the Egyptian aircraft. XL-10 comes down, Egyptian turns on the transponder, sends it over. So that could be it.
Yeah.
Could be.
And also maybe they probably could, but I'm thinking you might need a better device for encryption than a camera. You know, going back to what you were saying about maybe the camera was networked, perhaps you would need some type of infrastructure on your computer that can package it before it's sent out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, it's not the standard Wi-Fi, maybe.
Yeah.
No, but it's a valid idea.
I just hate that I can't prove stuff. That's the only thing,
Yeah.
you know. It's just like
Well, I've heard a lot of people talk about the fact that it's like we need to show different kinds of proof. There's a difference between proof, leads, evidence. Those are all actually terms that have meanings. As citizens, it is not our responsibility to prove any of this stuff, actually, but it's our responsibility to address leads and evidence. The burden of proof should be on our agencies. They're failing to do their job, so we'll do as much of the rest of it as we can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know who I was watching the other day, but they said it is not our responsibility. And it's funny. It was Andrew Tate, and he was saying that it is their responsibility to, at the very least, make us believe that they're working on our behalf. At least try, kind of what, like I said earlier. And it's true, no matter who said it, it's true. It goes back to, information is better than someone's history. Take it for what it is, but we should certainly be at least getting better psyops for sure. Barnes, $9.99. All satellites are pseudo satellites. Cube satellites are connected to balloons or balonies. I have exposed fake space and how they trick you with the movie tricks to dupe you into believing Tesla's in space. I've proven this. Interesting. Send something over. I'd love to check it out. Thank you. Lori, hey, what's up, Lori? Good to see you. Thank you. Quit gaslighting us for 20. Thanks for all the digging you're all doing. Justice for Charlie. Love QGU. Quit gaslighting us.
Love you, QGU. You're the best, and I appreciate you. Thanks for being here.
Love it. Love the name. Thank you. Barnes is back. If EMP is a weapon, then Castle Crown Towers erected during the pandemic are a weapon. They plan to reset us into the ages of dark if they feel trapped. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they'll ever feel. Well, maybe. It's interesting you say that because what do you all think about this? This is a conspiracy I thought about. It's like they're willing, like the powers that be, which are all in the one big club that we're not in, gratefully. Do you believe that it would get to a certain threshold of, I don't think it's necessarily people. I think they're telling us that we're overpopulated so that if something goes out of control, then they can utilize the information of, we need to whatever. I don't know, whatever makes sense in their crazy heads to depopulate, right? Curious if do you think that they're just going to do it anyways, or do you think that they need an initiative from us to instigate that? Or do you think that they're just waiting for something else? Or it's not at all going to happen? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I do. I mean, I don't. I think they definitely. I was just telling Anna this. Like, I think they would have plans to leave. They would have plans to leave whatever. Like, I think there's a possibility that they are planning to use the United States as more of a slave nation. I mean, we already kind of are there, but literally like a, post-apocalyptic nation in the America while they go repopulate somewhere else, and then possibly out to space. I don't know. I don't know about them resetting into the dark ages, because that would reset them too.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but who wants to live in a bunker? It's like,
right.
Yeah, people say like, oh, they got bunkers, they'll be fine, but none of these cats want.
They don't want to go do that. Yeah, they need their yachts and vacations. So I think it's even uglier than a complete reset like that.
And when you take out, if you say you were to do that, well, yeah, okay, you might say, well, an atomic blast or radiation, maybe you need a couple of weeks to be underground. They could sustain that, and then perhaps they've got something that can help them with radiation after they come up. But then who's going to fly your planes? Who's going to open your hangar? Who's going to serve your food? You're going to store all them in a bunker with you? Or is that what Albania is all about? I don't know.
Well, it does, I'm sure it's totally
put
random
all of our
the military
slaves
bunker. Right. Oh my gosh, I know. Just swimming around off of the Nat Rothschild's boat, and running across the military bunker in the middle of the Mediterranean, We had
barefoot,
to have it.
Yeah. And
walking up mountains. Love it.
Yeah.
Last one here looks like Baller Benlow. 499 SUBND turns on transponder at 2 p.m. 9:10. Terrell might send card there. Also, N59906 scans UVU minutes before. This plane's history is with DOJ.
Yeah, there were a few planes that circulated after the event that raises some suspicion. That's one of them.
Very strange.
But it's an interesting idea with the transponder on the Egyptian. So
yeah. So that's it. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Take it away, Teresa.
All right. Should I tap all the way out, like do a song and dance? I've been saying this, and I'm fond of saying it because I believe it's true. There's no better time for everybody to stand up and to stand together and to unite. And, truth doesn't stand in a box alone. It locks hands with courage and links arms with other believers. And that's what we're doing right now. That's what you're doing when you're here with the creators, when you're sharing posts, when you're reposting, when you're liking, when you're engaging, when you're supporting financially. So please keep it up. Please be brave, be strong, because there's no better time than now. And it's more urgent than ever. So I really appreciate you being here. Andy, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Anna. You too, your guys' work is phenomenal. I love you all, and I appreciate you all. Hey, remember to subscribe, all notifications. Please, if you're not subscribed to everybody, go subscribe to everybody. I'll be in Utah. I leave on the 28th, so we'll be out in Washington, turning over rocks, seeing what we can find out there, and we'll be attending the final day of preliminary hearing for Tyler Robinson. So we'll be doing live streams. Brandy Siciliani and I will be together. We're teaming up out there, so please keep your eyes open for those streams and give your support. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Great to see you guys.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, ladies.
Go hard.
All right.
Thank you.
Go hard. Go Max, baby.
Go Max.
Yeah, go Max.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andy.
Love
Thank you so
all.
much. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye.
This is a better life. From scars to stars, from pain to bulletproof, to reach a better life. A better life with you. Talking news, pop culture life, love and scandal, heart to heart. Teresa, better life. Real is where the reset starts. No playing small. We rise, we fall. We laugh, we do it all. A better life is one brave call. Teresa, better life. Let's build a better life. Let's build a better life.
Teresa Betty Lake.